All right, what's up, listeners? Welcome back to Predator versus Movies. I'm Alex,
I'm Aidan.
and this is a podcast where we discuss and review the latest movie releases. We're going to start off with a non spoiler review before diving into a deeper discussion of the movie, and then we're going to ask the most important question: would this movie be better if the alien from Predator was in it? This week, we're going to be reviewing Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope, with our special guest, Sascha.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here again.
Nice to have you back, Sascha. So, news. Where do I even start with this news? How about here? Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, his latest movie. That's, I think it. I think what's special about it is it costs a lot of money. I'm not sure what figure it is, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But it has found a star. It was looking for a leading cast member, and they found Aubrey Plaza. I totally dig that.
I'm completely down for that.
Yeah, I really like Aubrey from what was she in? She was in Parks and Rec, and then I also liked her in the X-Men Legion show.
Oh yeah.
So she's sick, and I've seen some other stuff like Black Bear. She's great in Black Bear, so I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think Aubrey Plaza is really cool. I think she's a really great actress. Like I think that a lot of people like think of Aubrey Plaza and they think like, oh, you're gonna get the deadpan April from
Yeah.
Parks and Rec thing. But yeah, from what I've seen, I think she can give a lot of different layers to things. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah, Knives Out, Glass Onion is getting a release date, and I'm still not crazy about that subtitle, but yeah, it's got a release date. It's coming in December.
Yeah, I
I'm
know
not.
Ryan. Sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say I
No, go
know
ahead.
Ryan Johnson. Like his goal ultimately was to make it like as a recognizable enough franchise that he doesn't have to put like a Knives Out story or whatever attached to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the idea is they're a little cautious to do that one movie in, or two movies in rather.
Yeah. Well, I feel like going with the Glass Onion by itself would be an even worse title.
Yeah.
I just glass and onion are just two words I wouldn't have put in a subtitle together.
Well, who knows? Maybe it'll be the murder weapon. We don't know.
Yes, like Clue. It was Colonel Mustard in the study with the glass onion.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm sure that game has happened. Um, Fantastic Four. This is a bit of a rumor, so we'll see if this holds up. But I've been hearing whispers that Matt Shackman, director of WandaVision, all 9 episodes of WandaVision, is going to be joining on as director of the Fantastic Four movie, which is slated for I want to say 2025 or like sometime in the far near future, medium
Yeah.
future.
That's interesting. I mean, I liked the beginning of WandaVision. I like it. I thought the first half was really cool. So yeah, I mean, I think that if he can, like, my main problem with WandaVision was how it just kind of divulged into Marvel third act, and like I guess the third act of the show. Like they literally had like the sky laser, which is
Oh, it was terrible.
that's a crazy
Yeah.
thing to be doing as late as they did. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's some cool ideas in that show, so I'm not against that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The start of the series was super strong, and then the finale was not. And yeah, I mean, what he does have going for him is, I mean, he did direct a superhero family in WandaVision, so I mean, what's so different about the Fantastic Four in a way? Um, yeah, I think it'll work. It seems that he's kind of got like that. Oh, I don't know what the word is, but like one of like a directorial style that kind of just meshes with the Marvel Studios look.
Yeah,
That doesn't. It's not like Sam Raimi with his Doctor Strange, right? Like,
right.
um, it's not as noticeable. So yeah, it's kind of like whatever. Um, I mean, there were rumors before that, and to be fair, these are pretty far fetched, but there were rumors that maybe they were looking for a bigger name like Spielberg, and I mean, a
Really?
Spielberg Fantastic Four would have been pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
Spielberg. Spielberg action movies are incredible. Like I think he does action great. I think people don't necessarily think about that as much, but just like some of the sequences in Indiana Jones are insane.
Oh yeah, like the I like the truck one
Yeah,
when he's like climbing under the undercarriage. That's crazy.
yeah.
Good movie. Um, what else happened? S- there's lots about Warner Brothers right now.
Oh yeah.
So we'll start with the good news before moving on to the bad news. Um, Matt Reeves is. It sounds like he's getting like carte blanche with Warner Brothers, so they're doing something right. It sounds like anything he wants will go. So Batman 2 is getting started. They're starting to write it. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, sounds like they're just game for whatever he has in store, which honestly, that's a good business
Yeah,
plan.
I'm down. Batman was so fun. That was such a fun movie. Yeah.
And yeah, his Planet of the Apes ones. I don't know who did them, but oh no, that was Fox. That was Fox because they're on Disney Plus now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, yeah, he's got strong style. So I'm glad they did that. But onto their less good news, which is worse. I'm trying to think. Um, well, this is more fun. Batgirl, which was unceremoniously canceled for tax purposes, is apparently having what they're calling um, funeral showings. Or I don't know if it was showings, but like funeral, um, like they're just showing them at the Warner Brothers lot so that people who worked on it can see it
Oh god.
before it's shut away in the vault, never to be seen again.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter, and I don't know if this is true, but like one of the directors was like, "Okay, we're gonna try to save as much footage as we can," and then he like tried to do that and was like, "Oh no, it's gone. Like I can't do anything about it."
Yeah, yeah. I apparently it was a French interview, and the first translation said that they had deleted it, and that's kind of like if I was a filmmaker and I had filmed well, I am a filmmaker, but if I had filmed a feature
Right.
film and the whole thing was deleted,
Oh
like
yeah.
that would be crushing.
That should
Apparent
be straight up illegal. Like that's
right?
crazy.
Yeah. um, but apparently the translation was a bit off, so it was more accurately blocked. They were just blocked from the server, so they no longer had permission to access it. Hence why there's these funeral screenings. So it does still exist for now. But yeah, it seems that Zaslav was one step ahead of the curve and is not going to allow another Snyder cut situation. um, although I'm sure that I would hope, at least, that that would be less toxic than the actual Snyder cut itself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not great. And then the other Warner Brothers news is that both Aquaman and Shazam have been pushed back.
Yeah.
I do have the dates. Shazam was pushed back to March 17th of next year, and Aquaman to December of 2023. I think Shazam was December. It was supposed to be
Yeah.
December.
It's gonna be a
Or
Christmas movie.
they keep moving, so I always forget. At one point, it was Aquaman going up against Avatar, which is hilarious because they're both underwater movies. So I don't honestly remember where they were. I think it was Shazam more recently, but um, yeah, and apparently the reason is that Warner Brothers doesn't have enough money to market their
Yeah.
movies.
That's what I heard. They're putting out like "Don't Worry, Darling" and oh, what was the other? And then there was like another big release. I guess it might have been the Batman, and those are the only ones they had the budget for this year.
It's not the Batman. I can find it though. But yeah, they it was "Don't Worry, Darling" was definitely one of them. Because the Batman had already released, so that's not what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, Black Adam,
Oh, right.
because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that DC property is still coming out.
yeah,
Um, oh my god, it's so funny though.
yeah. Like
um,
that's crazy. The idea of like Warner Brothers like collapsing, like such an enduring studio. Oh my god. I mean, like on the topic of "Don't Worry, Darling," did you see the clip of Harry Styles acting in it?
yeah, let's check about that. Yeah. Yeah. it didn't look great.
Didn't look great. Not doing him any favors by putting him next to Florence Pugh. Like
No,
it's
Florence Pugh's
like
fantastic.
yeah, when it cuts back and forth, it's like, oh man, like come on.
And is his character supposed to be British?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because at the start he's definitely British. Like the first
Oh
line, he's
yeah,
100% British, and then after that, I was like, I don't know anymore. I can't tell. Um, yeah, it's funny. Like if you're gonna put out this is the first clip I think that's like actually a clip. Like this is the one you went with.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You had the whole movie and you went with this one.
Like I don't want
Um,
to judge it too severely because it's possible that like in the context of his whole character, it's actually fine. Like like that is very much a possibility, but like it's not promising, and I do
no, it's not.
question the decision to put it out.
Yeah, and then it's this whole thing, the whole Olivia Wilde, Jason Sudeikis
Oh yeah,
bit. So it's so funny to me that she she divorces him and then makes a movie that's literally about feeling trapped in marriage,
yeah,
and then casts her lover as the romantic lead. Um, it's very interesting.
yeah.
And I'm also hearing like interesting things about behind the scenes, but I'm not gonna say anything about that because I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, that's something I
Um,
don't. I'm not gonna speculate on that
yeah,
either.
I you know what? I'm just gonna watch the movie, and
Yeah,
I honestly don't know. It could go either way. I think. Um, yeah. And one other thing about Warner Brothers, man, they've had a hell of a week. Apparently, and this is the cherry on top. Apparently, Warner Brothers has lost 20 million, no, $20 billion. That's billion with a B. $20 billion in, I want to say it was like market value, or like I don't know, some economics phrasing. I don't know what it was.
yeah.
Um, because in the process of trying to save $3 billion. So they're trying to cut. Sorry, it was trying to cut $3 billion
Yeah.
of costs, and instead of saving $3 billion, they lost $20 billion.
Somebody should fire their entire finance team.
No, it's just David. Somebody stop that guy. it's it's a nightmare.
That's crazy.
Um, I honestly don't know how we got to this situation where like Discovery buys Warner Brothers is already a weird idea, and
Yeah,
then someone who knows nothing about film is suddenly in charge of canceling projects and stuff.
yeah.
Oh, it makes me so mad.
Yeah, I've also heard that a lot of like animators are getting a lot of their work vaulted recently, and I think not just at Warner Bros. I think at Disney, a lot of this stuff is happening too. But yeah, it's pretty awful.
Yeah, I haven't heard about the Disney one, or if it was Disney, I didn't know. I don't know who does each cartoon, but things are getting deleted off of HBO Max.
Yeah,
Things that were created for HBO Max. Therefore, there is no physical copy of it, so it's
yeah,
gone. If it's off HBO Max, there's no way to watch it.
yeah,
Well, not no way, but no official way. And that's devastating for like these artists. And the reason is they want to save money on oh, what's the word, like, oh darn, like
they have to buy contracts to show things in certain areas, right?
yeah,
That's
like royalties.
yeah,
They have to pay royalties, right? So that's why they're just deleting things off. You'd think like having content on your streaming service would be a good idea,
yeah,
but apparently by saving money on these royalties, that somehow makes sense to someone. So yeah, that's a nightmare over there. I don't see myself like, why would a creator want to work for them knowing full well that they could work on a project for years and have it end up nowhere,
yeah,
just deleted,
yeah.
unable
Because
to
that's
access.
debilitating. Like, oh my
It's a
god.
good word. It's a good $10 word.
Yeah,
Debilitating.
hey,
It sure is. Yeah.
just earning the paycheck.
Um. Yeah. On to some more positive news. Did you watch the? This is positive with a heavy dose of irony. Did any of you watch the trailer for Disney's Pinocchio? You have to be
No,
careful this year because there's two
no,
Pinocchios coming
I
no.
out.
saw the one of them a long time ago.
Okay, so this is the first proper trailer. There was a teaser before. This is the one that Disney is making, not Guillermo del Toro's.
Is it live
Um,
action?
yeah, just like everything, like
I didn't
Oh,
even know
oh,
this was happening.
just wait. So, do you want to guess who's playing Geppetto?
uh, Tom Hanks.
You're right. You're hundred
What?
percent right.
What?
It's Tom
What?
Hanks. Tom Hanks is Geppetto. Um,
Really?
yeah, and it's being directed by Robert Zemeckis. So it's like
Oh, so it's gonna be
classic.
scary. It's gonna be unintentionally terrifying.
Why do you say that? Which of his is?
Just because like the uncanny valleyness of like so many of his movies, like Polar Express and like
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of other examples, but that's like there was like a meme for a while that like Robert Zemeckis movies are unintentionally terrifying because like these CGI characters that aren't quite human.
Well, well, be happy that you did not see the trailer because
Yeah,
Pinocchio is CGI and he is terrifying.
yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying.
it fits in perfectly. It looks I think it looks terrible, and so I'm very excited, and I want to do a pod episode about it,
Yeah.
just so we can watch that awful garbage fire.
I have a conspiracy theory about like bad CGI in trailers though that I think they're my conspiracy is that they're using it as a marketing technique now. That they're intentionally
Interesting.
not finishing CG. And so that like it'll come out and Twitter's gonna be like, this looks terrible, what the hell? And then like they get a lot of buzz about it.
That's not crazy, but I also know that like there's just COVID backlog,
Yeah.
and it's COVID plus Marvel overworking the entire
Yeah.
VFX industry, so they're just like a huge shadow over them, and so it makes their just because they're pumping out content at a ridiculous rate, so
Yeah.
um, yeah, so they're wearing out their people so that the Marvel stuff looks bad and everybody else's stuff doesn't look as great. So it's just it's not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pinocchio, it'll be something, all right. It also has is it Cynthia Erivo as the fairy? One second. Definitely Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the cricket.
Okay.
It's all right. I don't think it beats what's his name? Ewan McGregor as he's gonna be the cricket in Guillermo's del Toro's.
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, Cynthia Erivo is the Blue Fairy. For some reason, it says Robert Downey Jr., but I don't know who it is. I don't know who he's playing.
He's just gonna be there
He's
as
just, yeah,
himself.
he's cameoing as himself. Um, come on, I'll find it. I'll find it. Luke Evans is in it as the coachman, whoever that is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know half of these people.
Yeah.
It's all very vague.
Keegan
Anyways,
Michael Key as the fox. Wow.
oh, is that? Oh, he's the fox. Oh, well,
That's what Google said.
yeah. But yeah, so super excited to watch that. Last thing, this isn't really movie related news, but it is very topical. I just have to find it on Twitter. Here we go. So this is from IGN. Vice uncovered in a budget report two stunning admissions from Congress. Not only is UFO activity increasing exponentially, that's a quote exponentially, but also the US government doesn't think that all UFOs are man made.
Wow.
Awesome!
From IGN.
From IGN, from Vice, from Congress.
Well,
So yeah, it's
how are
quite
they
the chain.
supposed to? How can they prove that they're quote not man-made?
That's
Yeah,
a
how do
good
they know?
question.
What if it's just like Buddy from Arkansas shooting some shit in the air?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do they know it's not the case?
Buddy from Arkansas is just
Yeah.
skeet shooting, and he's
Yeah.
launching it a bit too far. Maybe that's a good question about the man-made thing. Maybe it's just like Congress says, "Hey, secret government organization, should I be concerned about this?" And like 90% of the time, they're like, "Nah, don't worry about it. That's us, dog." But like,
No, you
nothing
just
else. And
you
they're like,
just
"Okay,
missed an opportunity there, Alex. Should we be worried about it? Nope.
nope." Speaking of
Well,
nope,
segue.
yeah, that's our movie of the week. Hence the UFO news, or as Angel in the movie calls it, what was it? Not IPAs, UPAs,
something
um,
like that.
unidentified UAPs. Oh, shoot, what is it called? Um, I gotta find it because the other thing is he doesn't explain it in the movie. If I'm correct, oh, it's UAP, but I don't know what it stands for. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. I'm guessing
Uh,
that's what we'll go with. Um, but yeah, that's our movie. Nope, not of planet Earth. Did you know that's what it stands for?
I did not know that's what it stand for. I just
I
thought it
heard
was
that
because
from
they
you,
said nope a
Alex.
couple times.
Well, that's okay because Jordan Peele didn't know that either, and he he just called it that because of the characters and what
Yeah,
they say. Which honestly, fair.
I
Um,
liked it. Yeah,
yeah, walking out of the theater, definitely, I had some nope moments myself. Just like driving and then getting out of the car and then like looking out
yeah,
carefully, like, okay, there's not anything gonna
yeah.
vortex me today. Nope. Um, Yeah, so we're going to start off with our guess the Metacritic score.
Sure.
So Metacritic tabulates critics' scores of movies, like how much they rated it. It's only critics, not general users. 60 and above is considered like a green score. 80 and above is must see. The 50s are yellow, and 49 and below are red. So we are going to try and guess what the score for Nope was. Um, so I think I won last time. So I'm going to let Sasha go first.
Um, 68.
68. Interesting.
Really, I'm
Aidan.
going 87.
80. Hmm. I'm torn. I'm gonna go with 80.
Okay.
I think 80. So Sasha was 68, 87, and 80. If my eyes do not deceive me, it is a 77.
Oh,
So I was closest with my
congratulations.
80. So it's not a must see.
Mm.
That's interesting.
I think that's very interesting. I think like it's absolutely a must see for this year, in my humble opinion.
Well, let's hear about that. As the winner, I hereby do declare you can go first for
Sure.
your non spoiler reaction.
Yeah. So, initial reaction, really, really liked it. I really, really, really liked it. I think Jordan Peele is a really engaging director, and I think that recently I've been feeling the fatigue of bland nothing directing, particularly coming off the heels of like Thor 4. Like this was the first movie I saw after seeing Thor 4.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, well, this is great. I love this. The director, the at least the directorial style. Yeah, I think my main problems. I had some problems with the way some concepts are explained, and I generally didn't have a problem with the script, except I think that the problems kind of revealed themselves a little bit more towards the end. I think like it unraveled a little bit towards the end. It had me to the point where I was kind of questioning like certain things. But in general, like I have a theory of movies that like if they can be like there are two meters and there's like the cool versus stupid meter, and it's like the cooler
Okay.
something is, the higher the stupid threshold is raised. So like Mission Impossible is the
Okay.
perfect example. So like stupid as fuck. Most of the things that happen are really dumb, but it's so cool that the stupid threshold is really high. And so I think like nope, I wouldn't say stupid, but I'd say like what I was really into the best parts of the movie, so the worst parts got a bit of a pass for me. And all in all, I really liked it. I thought it when it was trying to be scary, it was very scary. I loved the performances, uh, and yeah,
Cool. What would you rate it out of five?
out of five, I'd give it four.
Nice. And it sounds like you would wreck this to the layman.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, Sasha, let's hear from you.
So, going into this movie, again, Alex, this is one of those movies that you and I saw the trailer for a number of times, just like men. Um, so, it's one that was very compelling, I think. And that's something that Jordan Peele does well with his trailers. So I never actually saw the trailer for Us, now that I think about it. But Get Out had a very compelling trailer, and I think Nope did as well. Um, The sort of couple of notes that I had was that I really liked the premise of Nope. I thought it was a really interesting idea. Um, and a lot of what was done, I think, or the way that it was done was really interesting. The one thing I do find that was kind of lacking, I feel like, was the character, like the backstory with the characters and their history. There's a lot in the trailer, or at least there's parts of the trailer that you would think would have a more like a bigger significance. Like the trailer opens with the discussion of the 2 second clip of the black man on the horse, and that's only briefly brought into the film. And for something that's going to open the trailer, I feel like that might have, or that should have had a bigger role than it did in the film itself. So that's the one thing that I think was a little bit disappointing, was just the character development or the lack of exploration of the characters' pasts, with the exception of one of the characters. Um, but overall, I think this film did really well in terms of what it was trying to present, and I definitely thought it was a good one.
Nice. What would you score it?
I would probably give it a 4 as well, maybe creeping up to a 4.5.
Wow. And so sounds like a wreck.
Yes, I am the layman, so yeah, I would tell myself to go see it again.
Yeah, actually, Sasha is our resident layman. Yeah, yeah, I'd have to agree with what you guys have been saying. I'll actually start off with my score to give some context for kind of how I felt about it. But my original score was a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I think if I watched it again, I could easily be convinced to give it a 4. So I'd say like more or less I agree. But I think yeah, I think I should start off like there's a lot of positives to this movie. This was probably one of the better movies I watched this summer. Um, Again, like right after Thor 4, like
Yeah.
of course this is like a shock to the system. Um, Peele knows what he's doing as a director, and there's some instances where I was just like the images on screen are like haunting,
Yeah.
and he's a master of his craft. He knows what he's doing, and so I'm gonna keep seeing what he does. um I think this movie had scary moments, and we'll get into this shortly, but I don't think it is nearly as scary as some of his other films. I don't know if that's necessarily an issue. I think he's definitely trying to break out of his horror genre a little bit here. It's definitely feels a little bit more like Spielberg is one name that's come up in conversations like this, mostly because of his work with his Jaws and Close Encounters movies. Many comparisons have been made between those and this movie. Nope. Um, what else? But yeah, so it wasn't incredibly scary, which is a little disappointing. And we've you both have sort of referred to this, but I think there's maybe an issue with the characters. I think as the spectacle has gotten bigger with Peele, um, the characters have gotten a little weaker. So I feel like, um, unlike Us and Get Out, I feel like I cared less about the central characters in this movie, and I knew less about them, and I was definitely confused about their backstory, and I felt like it wasn't fleshed out quite enough. So that by the end, I just wasn't fully satisfied. I like, there just wasn't the highs and the lows that I was hoping for. So it was kind of missing that like X factor for me to make it like a great movie. But I think like as far as summer blockbusters go, this one was pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Left me hooting and hollering. Um, yeah, so that's our non-spoiler reactions. So we're gonna get into it. This is your official spoiler warning. So we're gonna get into everything about Nope. We're gonna talk about those things that probably you were wondering about when you left the theater, any questions you had, and things that bothered us. We're gonna talk about it all. So first off, how scary was this movie for you guys?
So yeah, when we were talking about this, like, I don't think that this movie was trying to be a straight up horror. I think that like this, like in my spoiler for your review, I said it's scary when it's trying to be. And I think like when it's trying to be, it's legitimately terrifying. I'm a big horror guy. I've watched a lot of horror like all the time. In high school, like that was just something me and my friends did. We just went to shitty horror movies that we knew were gonna be shit. And so I've I've eaten up all of the horror. I've seen the art house elevated horror. I've seen the Nun, which was really bad. If you guys did see that, but yeah, I think that like one of the things that I like to talk about was it's like you have horror movies like you have the concept of the elevated horror now, which is like this horror movie that digs deeper into other themes and character development and so on. And I am generally let down by these movies. Like I know one of my hot takes is that I think Hereditary and Midsummer are both pretty lame movies and not scary. And so I think that for a movie that I would call this like I guess an elevated horror, even though I don't think it's trying to be a horror most of the time, this is a movie that nails like good exploration of themes and also being legitimately scary. Um, so yeah, I guess in short, I think yes, I think it was very scary. As to whether or not the UFO was scary, I thought slightly less so than certain other things, but I guess yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Sasha, what did you think?
So I didn't find it overly scary for the most part. There were a few scenes that definitely were. The scenes that were in the dark, uh, sort of when they were first trying to figure out what was going on with the UFO. Um, that was definitely scary. I think for me, just the tense, how tense it was, how dark it was. Nobody knew what was going on. There was a scenes where like OJ was gone from the house, so you're wondering like what's going to happen to him. Is he going to make it back alive? Um, but this movie was the thing I liked about it was that it was free mostly from jump scares, aside from the odd one here or there, which generally jump scares just annoy me and make me unnecessarily scared for the rest of the movie. So aside from the one that was like the statue crashing through the windshield, that one which was came out of nowhere, I didn't find it to be overly scary, which was good. Um, I think something that also contributes to that is the fact that it's not like a lot of horror movies that you'll watch, like Aiden, like you were talking about with your sort of your classic horror movies or ones that have come out in recent years that aren't that great. Um, Examples are like Insidious or Sinister, things like that. They're all just really dark. Um, but Get Out, most of the action takes place during the day, and what is at night is well lit. Um, Us is very light as well. A lot of the stuff happens during the day, aside from near the beginning. The same thing with this one. Um, a lot of what they're doing, especially when they go and try to film the UFO, that all happens during the day. When when the horse show is going on at the amusement park, that's all during the day, and so that I think takes away from how scary it is, which for me personally makes it a better viewing experience because you're not sitting there wondering, am I going to get jump scared, and then is this going to keep happening, and then sort of ruin the experience to some extent because you're kind of covering your eyes for half of it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I would say like yeah, well, like what Aiden was saying, I don't think for a lot of it is trying to be horror, but there's definitely sequences where it is. And I think a lot of it does work, especially when it's unfortunately not the alien, the real one. Um, I think it's a case of uh, like like a Jaws situation for the alien itself. Like the more I see of it, the less scared I am. I'd say like even the first time when you see it, when it's like moving between the clouds, I felt like almost nothing. Um,
Yeah.
so I think maybe a little bit even disappointed by how unscary the UFO was. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say like I don't think seeing the UFO was that scary, but I think the scariest sequence in the film that like made my heart drop is when everyone gets sucked up into the UFO and just the one shot where it's climbing up and it's the most claustrophobic like and you hear these like distorted screams and stuff. Like that made my heart sink And like I cannot stress enough, like I'm desensitized to most horror. Like most of the time I watch horror and it does nothing for me. And that was terrifying. Like I that actually like gave me chills in the theater seeing that.
Yeah, the screams from the people inside the belly of the beast, that was haunting, I would say.
Yeah.
And later when they're in the house, like the main characters are in the house, and then you hear the screams
Yeah.
from the and you so you know it's there. That was really well done, and it's unique, you know, something that's probably never been done in horror before. And so yeah, I think that was exceptionally well done. And yeah, it was scary. And Sasha and I watched it in IMAX, so like it
Oh
was
yeah, that
loud.
was insane. Yeah,
It was very loud screams, and
yeah.
yeah, ugh, that was awesome. But yeah, just like any other time you see the alien, I felt nothing.
I agree.
Especially, I don't want to get too much into it, but when it's in its like final form, I was really like, okay, this movie needs to end really quickly.
But there I wasn't like I was at the point where I was like, okay, it's not trying to make the alien scary at this point because it's like enough is revealed at it about it at that point where it's like it's not really scary. It's more about just stopping it at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't mind that.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think Peel makes up for it with like other things that are in the movie. So like the woman who's at the show that was mutilated by Gordy, that she freaked me out a little
Okay.
bit. The what's his name? Stephen Ewan's character, his kids dressed as the aliens.
Oh
That
yeah.
moment really scared me when you
Yeah.
first see them and they're
Oh,
like kind of like
Oh yeah,
I
they're
love
like,
that first shot when it
ugh,
just hangs on it and you
oh
can't
my
tell
god,
that it's there and then it starts moving. I
yes.
like that got like an audible reaction in my theater where people are like, "Oh." Yeah. And then when he
I think
pokes his head out, the second guy pokes his head out. Oh
oh my
my
god.
god. Yeah.
That's what's so crazy to me is the fact that the horror of any other element in the movie is so much better and stronger than the alien itself. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that regard. I like what Peel does with it ultimately, but I don't know. I think I was kind of hoping it would have been scarier.
Sure.
Even like I don't know. I'm trying to think of other alien movies that I've seen. I'm not a big horror person. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'd say like even in Close Encounters, the aliens are scarier, and they're not even like mean aliens. Spoilers for Close Encounters.
Mm.
Sorry, that came out 70 or like 40 years ago, so that's on you.
that's
But
beyond the statute of limitations.
exactly. But you know, it's the fact that you don't see them, and so you just see like their the effects of them being nearby, and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, those kids in costumes, terrifying. Um, man, when they I think when they were moving, and like the shot you were describing, where it waits and then you don't think anything's there, but then you see the mask slowly move.
Yeah.
I think I was probably starting to go nope. Like that was the first time. I was like
Yeah.
nope, 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 and then yeah, and then OJ like sucks the kid in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was awesome, but also
Yeah.
like, is the kid okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kid seemed fine
Yeah.
afterwards. I think they forgot about that, but that was really funny. Trying to
Uh,
think what else. Yeah, Aiden.
yeah, I was just gonna say another part that I thought was scary was I believe this is the very opening shot of Gordy.
Uh,
And the seeing that I loved that opening shot so much. I think I want to get into it later exactly why I love it because it ties more into a different point. But I thought that like the Gordy stuff was quite scary. I liked that it was very like quiet, like there wasn't really music behind it, and all you could really hear was like the sounds of people like moving around and running, and like the little details, like you can see people huddling in the like in the audience,
mm,
and it doesn't focus on them. But if you're looking around, and then what I loved about it, and this is also the case in that one shot we were just talking about with the Jupe's kids, is that the idea like just hanging on a wide and doing it for long enough that it forces you to search, and then when you find the thing, it's really scary and it's really rewarding.
hmm
And he does that a few times in this movie. I thought it was really great.
Yeah, and there's a couple times where I think he also does zooms, slow zooms that are so like smooth that it's like eerie. Oh,
Yeah.
Peel is phenomenal, but I think you're getting at a point that's really excellent. Is a lot of the best horror in this movie is sound design.
Yeah.
So the screams we were talking about, the Gordy scene, like you said, is mostly silent. And what are you hearing? You're hearing there's two different Gordy scenes, so I'm gonna mix them up. But between the two, right, you hear the monkey like off screen making sounds, and people screaming. You hear the this is like I'm like making a face right now because it's hard to say, but like the squelching of the person getting attacked. That's
Yeah.
so disturbing,
Yeah.
and like the pop of the balloon. That's like that's a jump scare. So I think Peel really nails the sound design and like how that is used for the horror. Um, and yeah, claustrophobia, like you were saying, was also really good. And then I don't know, there was also that scene where the UFO is dripping blood. I don't know if that was
Oh
scary,
yeah.
but that was such a great image.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
Ugh.
there were multiple times where like I wasn't necessarily scared, but I was like, oh, this is fun. Like that's the word I always use to
Yeah,
describe things. But it's like when you can tell the director was like really playing with a lot of elements, and it's like, oh man, like they were when they shot this, they were super hyped. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
when they got when they got that shot back, they're like, this is really good.
yeah. Um, yeah, so we were just talking about Gordy though, so let's get into that. Let's move into that topic. So Gordy, definitely one of the more scary parts of the film, and one that people I find often don't understand why it's there.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people are like leaving the theater wondering why it's in there.
Which is really
And
surprising to me personally when I found out that that's what people's reaction to it was. But
right?
yeah,
Well, I think I'm one of those people though, because I can see how
Uh-oh.
it gives him. Well, okay, I can see how it gives Jupe like a sort of a starting point for him to build his empire, so to speak. But I feel like it's just it does feel weird that it's there. So that could just be me. If one of you guys can explain better, because I mean I'm just a chemistry student, so I don't know anything. Um,
Yeah, yeah, let's jump ahead to that idea then. So let's talk about what we think this movie's about and how Gordy ties into it.
sure.
Aiden, do you wanna take it away?
Yeah, so I think like we were talking about this, where I think one of the biggest themes, and I don't think it's trying to hide this either, is that of exploitation and creating a spectacle out of like traumatic experiences, and how you are persuaded in many ways through you know economic strangling, like you're having a hard time like as an artist to like essentially sell your trauma. And so I think like a lot of, and although Jupe isn't necessarily an artist, I think like a lot of his story tied into that, where it was like he had this horrible experience, and you can see that when he was a child, it like severe, like it terrified him. But now we cut back to as an adult, and he's built this empire out of it, and he's almost like worked himself into believing that, um, like what he's doing is fine, like in that almost that it was part of a grander plan, like it was a bad miracle, like they were talking about. Um, like this thing happened to him and it gave him the opportunity to build this empire, and then that is swiftly taken away from him in one suck of the alien.
A
um
swift suck.
yeah, and I think like in terms of plot, if I'm not mistaken, because I heard that a lot of people were saying like they understood how it tied into that thematically, but they didn't understand like quite in terms of plot why it was there. I understood that like it was largely Jupe that was the reason Jean Jacket was hanging around there. That was something that I gathered from that. It's been a little while since I watched it, so in terms of plot, it's that explanation of it where like Jean Jacket wouldn't even necessarily be threatening this family were it not for Jupe thinking he could create a spectacle out of this thing that he does not understand. Um, I'll let Alex go. I was just talking for a bit.
Yeah, no, I didn't pick up on that last bit. I think that's one of those things that like did you like find that somewhere on the internet kind of thing?
No, it was something that was like I forget, there were a few lines of dialogue that gave me that impression that like,
Okay.
because I mean, and well, I think part of it is that when we do see the show, like where they all get sucked at the end, um, like he has this the way he talks about it is like as if he's known the aliens there for a long, long time. Um,
Mm.
and I think that was one of the main things that made me think that. And so like in a way, like he was the person that set it all in motion. And I also I thought that one of the points was as well that like you have in America, you have like, oh, we're making a spectacle out of these things, we're trying to control these things we don't understand, and the people that suffer from it are black people often and marginalized
Hmm.
groups. Like they didn't bring it to themselves, but it just is there anyway, and it's become their problem. So I thought that that was one of the other ways it tied
Interesting. Those are great points. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely makes it
Um,
make a lot more sense now.
I did. Yeah. No, I did see that. I read somewhere that it was like, yeah, there's hints in the dialogue that um, ever since Otis Senior is killed with the coin, that around that time is when Jupe starts hanging out with the alien because it's shown up at that point.
in. Yeah,
But I honestly I don't think there needs to be a plot connection for why the Gordy stuff is in there. I think
yeah,
it's
I agree.
more I think it's more important that that it fits in with the rest of the story. Uh, knowing there's a difference between story and plot.
Yeah,
So it just kind of fits in better with like the meaning of the film.
yeah,
So like yeah, I get it for the layman's out there, Sasha, who are like, hey, what happened to the alien? Why am I watching the monkey kill people right now? Like I get that, but also I feel like it's, I'm really happy that in such a mainstream movie that something like this is happening where people are being forced to like kind of question
yeah,
why such a scene is there and try to come up with like meaning behind something that doesn't make as much sense, whereas so often like things are like spoon fed.
yeah.
So I'm glad that he put that in there, even if some audiences aren't like getting it or like need a little bit help to get there.
And
I think
and I
that's
thought, sorry, yeah, you go, you finish.
I think it's just like a retraining thing, right? Like audiences are so used to getting all the answers
Yeah,
that it's probably been a while since a blockbuster wasn't telling you all the answers up front, right?
and I also thought it was really interesting. Like it just that scene accomplished a lot. I think in exploring the theme. Like I know the shoe is on the notes here. Like so, I have a few thoughts about the shoe. I think that one is that like it's indication of it being a bad miracle. Like it's just
Yeah.
this like freak thing that happened by chance, and the shoe is standing up. And he's always I get the impression that like Jupe has always thought about that, and he's always looked at that and like taken it as a sign that that was a miracle in a sense. But what I also liked is when you see the shoe sitting in the glass case in his thing, if removed from the story, the horror story that happened, it's just a shoe. And it's like that the object in and of itself does not mean anything, and you wouldn't display it. But because it's attached to this horrific story, and because it's something that people can then sink their teeth into and consume, it's a traumatic experience that people can consume.
Mm.
It can be put on display.
The trauma
Um,
gives it meaning.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I thought that was really interesting because I think that again, like a lot of the main theme is also about consumption. Um, like it wasn't lost on me that like the jean jacket is called, I believe, referred to as the viewer at one point by Jupe, and it's
Missed
either
that
the
part.
it's either the viewer or the audience, and what ultimately undoes jean jacket is its own consumption. And
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting point as well.
No, you brought up a lot of great bits. I agree. Like the shoe. The other co-host of the podcast, Peter, who unfortunately couldn't make it today because he had to prepare for his video game tournament or something. Catch him on Destiny in the next couple of days. I don't. Or actually, by the time I post this, I'm sure it'll be over. But um, yeah, yep, that's where he is. So, anyways, he saw Nope as well, and he had some questions. and one was the shoe. And I think I said the same thing. I said it was a bad miracle, which I think every time like the moment I realized that that's what the shoe was, because even I leaving the theater was like, what's up with that shoe?
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, it's the bad miracle. I was like, oh, Peele, you dirty dog, that's awesome, it's so good. um no, so yeah, that's, I think it's also interesting that it's pointing up, like it's just kind of like all this idea of like, that's just a visual motif at that point, but I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It also kind of just ties into this idea of um like horror movies, the more compelling ones, the ones that you want to go back to, are the ones that don't try to give you all the answers, that give you
Yeah.
something to bite on. So one of the most famous and prolific horror films of all time is The Shining.
Yeah.
I only saw it for the first time a couple of months ago, or a month ago or so. And the reason why so many people love that movie and keep coming back to it is because of all of the things that can't be fully explained: the ghosts, the blood, and with the elevator, the
Yeah.
room, whatever it was. I don't know. The twins, you know, there's so many iconic imagery. So like imagery is a big thing, and the shoe
Yeah.
100% fits in that. And then not everything needs to be explained, right? There's enough for the audience to chew on and to ruminate about without, being spoon fed all the answers. So I think Peel is tapping into that tradition. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so uh, kind of jumping back a couple minutes to what the Gordy thing. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think all that you said, Aiden, about Gordy, just like, yeah, it was a traumatic experience for, I think it's Jupiter, that's his name, or Jupe. Um, traumatic experience for him, and then he decides to, take that and make a profit off of it with that. I don't know what he called it, like I think of it like a sleepaway,
Yeah.
sleepover at
Ranch
sleepover at
time.
a Jupe's ranch in
Yeah.
the trauma room. Gordy's Gordy's nightmare attack. Yeah, that's a great place to sleep. That's a weird idea, but honestly, I'm not surprised. Like, that sounds something that would exist in the real world, which is
I mean,
unfortunate.
but it is pretty secure though, right? Like it's hidden kind of behind the wall, right? Nobody would know it's there. So
I don't think you would have a chimp attack happen to you in that room.
yeah,
No, that's not what
So
I mean.
I
yeah,
know.
no, it's
Like, it's creepy. Like, I don't know. I would definitely like start hearing monkeys. Like, I feel like Jupe could totally be like fucking with the guests and like start playing monkey sounds over the. I think that'd be great. um, but yeah, so let's get into while we're on the topic of exploitation. How about like let's pick apart this movie, because exploitation is definitely like the grand thing, I think, at least.
Yeah.
So Aiden mentioned Jupe does it with the with Jean Jacket when he creates the show. Um, and yeah, there's this idea that like there's a difference between exploitation and um, doing something, I guess, with respect. I don't know
Yeah.
if it could still be considered exploitation, but at least there's some respect for the material. So I don't know
Like
if
what
there's a different
OJ and
word.
M do with
Yeah,
the horses. Yeah.
exactly. So yeah. So they're the ethical or not consumption, but like creation of content. Or I hate the idea of calling things art content, but
Yeah.
the creation of film and whatnot with
Media.
respect for the animals, media. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Jupe has very little respect, even for his own trauma, right? Like that's exploitation. I think kind of has this connotation of lack of respect.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he's kind of like the dark side of what OJ and M could fall into. M seems to be wanting to get into that world of like just into Hollywood and stuff, and doesn't seem to care like about the ethics of it, right? So she's just trying to get that Oprah shot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and what else is there?
Well, I thought it was also interesting in that first scene how it's like, or not the first scene, but in the scene where OJ and M are at the movie shoot at the commercial. Um, I thought it was really interesting how, like, I thought that was another example of how, like, showing the wrong way to do things. Like, this is an animal. Like, you have to respect this. This is not something that is completely in our control. And so I think some of it was the movie was also kind of suggesting that we exploit out of our own like hubris. Like we
Mm,
have this idea that we have this grasp on everything, and I think there are multiple times in the movie where the point of it is to show how small we can be. Um, like I think that's to me one of the reasons why both the Gordy scene and the suck scene are so disturbing.
we gotta stop calling it that. It
Because it's
could
like
not be called the suck scene.
because it's like, the scene where everyone gets sucked off.
Yeah,
Um,
the suck show.
yeah. Because it's like this idea
God.
like, oh, we'll be fine, we'll be safe, we have everything under control, and it's this rude awakening that we don't. And when you
Yeah.
hear the people crying and you see them in Jean Jacket, it's just like a brutal reminder, like they have no hope, like they're lost at that point, they don't have any control. um
Yeah, it harkens back to, oh, good, I found the name. It harkens back to Siegfried and Roy with their
yeah,
lions or tigers or whatever, right? This idea that like these people who work with these animals have complete control when really they don't.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and um, I did do some reading before this pod, and apparently, COVID kind of like inspired Peele for this, and so you can kind of see how this idea of this never-ending like media about tragedy fueled the media industry for a long time, or like at least news during COVID,
yeah,
and so it's not hard to see like how that is then made fuel for this movie. And then there's also kind of like a meta idea of how of Peele's job as a horror filmmaker,
yeah,
because doesn't all he do, like everything he does is exploiting trauma, and it's fictional trauma, but it's still trauma nonetheless,
right.
and it's
And it has a
exploited
bearing
for,
on real life.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's exploited for our entertainment. So it's kind of the same thing. So like, there's a question of like the morality of what Peele does for a living as a filmmaker, and
yeah,
I mean, yeah, and it's interesting that like in a movie, he's like commenting on like the use of animals in film, and he's using animals in film. So like, it's
yeah.
hard not to like then point the mirror at him in kind of like a nope way, right?
Right. Well, that's what like I thought like the DOP character was like sort of supposed to be a bit of a stand-in for him. Like where it's
Interesting.
like he's getting like the perfect shot. Like cuz you have this idea, you see the TMZ guy before, and it's supposed to be like, "Oh, this guy is clearly like a vulture. He doesn't care. He's part of this fast consumption culture." And there's the idea that like, well, a filmmaker is above that, but then it's like ultimately the filmmaker kind of wants the same thing as the TMZ guy.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting critique. But one of the things that regarding like the topic of animals and using animals, the way I interpreted the movie was that it was saying that like you're not necessarily wrong to use an animal or try to capture something that's outside of your grasp or your control, but it's this idea that like it is solely in your control and you have complete control over this. That's wrong, and that there's a right way to do things, and that it's not. I think what I'm trying to get at is that like these naturalistic animalistic forces aren't good or evil, they just exist, and
Mm.
it's only us who kind of create the evil out of it, like
Then
gore.
creating a narrative out
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, like, and I think that like that was what the fist bump was to me too, where it was like Gordy isn't evil. He doesn't want to like go and kill a bunch of people. He's still like he had this bond with this child. He's not just gonna kill it. He has no, you know what I mean? But there was a right way to do things, and because
It's
Jupe had
in
created an actual bond, he
Yeah, it's in the animal's nature, really,
yeah,
and it's the idea of separating the animal from its nature is what's causing an issue, right? So people are thinking that, like you said, they have a complete mastery over the animal, but they've forgotten that it has its true nature, and those are the rules it operates by, not by human rules where it's following the lines or whatever the script, right? Um, but yeah, that fist bump scene I could see that being quite perplexing, but I think what you said definitely nails it. It's that, like, despite what he did, he still is the same animal who had that connection with Jupe. But and it's hard to hold those two things in balance. Um, I also think that in kind of in a way that this is what I was thinking, but I can see how it connects with what you were saying. It reminds me of E.T. So I feel like that was a direct callback to,
Hmm.
you know, alien films of the past. But that just kind of furthers your point, how it's like the monkey, the chimp still has the connection there. Um, with all this talk of exploitation, would you say that I think they're the Hayworths, M and OJ. Would you say that are they like operating uh, in ethically or moral gray water, or like what do you think?
Do you mean in terms of what they do for a career, or what they're trying to, or how they're trying to take a picture of Jean Jacket?
I would say that for their career, probably
Sure.
fine, but yeah, more the jean jacket thing.
Yeah. But well, I think that is an interesting turn in the exploration of it, because it shows that, like, again, like, people aren't necessarily like profiting off of trauma or these horrible situations out of some evil desire. Like, it's not necessarily greed. It's like they are fairly desperate for money, and they have this opportunity. And because of the culture that exists, that they know if they can spin this narrative and sell the Oprah shot, they can make a lot of money. And so I think that they perhaps, yes, they are operating in a bit of gray water, but like at the same time, like I don't know that I'd do something different if I knew that it was going to be curtained soon. This thing would probably be discovered soon, and like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's not like the CIA or whatever is going to do something super ethical with it. So like I'm be like, well, yeah, I'm gonna, if I'm like losing this house, my dad just died, like I have to try to fend for myself. Like, yeah, I'm gonna try to make a little bit of money off of it too.
I think you guys have raised interesting points. I could have had a field day with this movie about 6 months ago. I was taking this course that I just picked randomly called Animals in Society, and there's so
Yeah.
many things that this movie talks about, um, or at least
Aren't you hold on?
raises.
Aren't you taking Animals in Society 2, the
No,
sequel?
I was going to, but
What?
critical
You
animal studies
have
isn't being,
to.
it's not being offered. If it was being offered,
What?
I would have taken it.
Sounds like a cool
Um,
course.
yeah, so there's a lot in there. Like there's
They're
the exploitation of the animals. To me, okay, so in this movie, there's three distinct sets of the animals. There's, well, two, possibly three. There's the horses, there's Gordy, and there's Jean Jacket with a big question mark next to it, because how do we determine whether that's an animal or not? Is it even alive? I don't know. Um, so to me, I think basically, I think Gordy is definitely being exploited, and I think that is for sure a contributor to what to his um, to the attack that he. I mean, this is talking like really anthropocentric terms, but I'm just going to go with it. The attack that he perpetrates and his revenge, so to speak, on the human characters. Um, but then and then that culminates in his death. Right? He goes on this rampage. Sure, he kills these people. He mutilates one, but then
he
he
goes bananas. Sorry.
yeah okay. Thanks, Alex. So he goes on this attack, but then he calms down and he sees Jupe, and he's there's this work towards this amazing moment where it's just this peaceful fist bump, and then out of nowhere he's shot dead. Right? It doesn't get any more um, violent against the animal than that. Right when you've got an opportunity to not kill this thing and just tranquilize it or whatever, put it in a cage, do something. They just shoot it, and that's it. That's the end of this animal's life.
It's Harambe all over again.
Oh my god!
I'm actually surprised that
I was
no
just
one
thinking
had
that shit.
no. I'm surprised no one. I've never heard anyone
Yeah,
talk about
actually, I
Harambe
didn't
after
even
this
think
movie.
about that. But
It's been how many years? 6 now.
6, yeah,
I guess
yeah. No,
it's
that
out of people's
definitely,
mind.
yeah. No, that makes sense. So that's the one. The second group is the horses, which I don't think they're actually being. I think they're treated the best of anybody. This family-owned ranch is Um, they're taking care of these horses well. OJ goes out into the darkness with this alien circling overhead to go out and save the horses. Right. That is, it shows that respect that he has for the animals and the care for them. Um, the fact that they're willing to sacrifice anything or do whatever they can to keep this ranch, to keep their horses, and it's you can see the pain in OJ when he has to sell them because he clearly loves these animals. He enjoys taking care of them and doesn't want to part with them. And he knows that they're going back to where they're going is, you know, this place of just pure exploitation of the story with
Yeah.
Gordy, of the horses themselves, of the UFO with Jupe's amusement park. So there's a lot of exploitation going on there. And even in the beginning too, when OJ gets fired from the commercial, what happens there, the whole reason for that occurring is because the horse gets scared by seeing its reflection, which OJ was trying to prevent. And had that worked, and had there been more respect for the horse, maybe that wouldn't have happened, and maybe there wouldn't have been so many issues that led to all the problems that his family was facing. um, so I think of the three groups of animals, the horses are treated the best, and that's kind of the beacon of hope and the counter to what was being done with Gordy. And then, yeah, sure, there's the question of the alien. I group it into the animals because it's not human, right? So
I
it
would.
falls in that.
I think it's fair to consider it an animal because it plays by the similar rules.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Um,
I would just
yeah, so I think it falls into a similar category as Gordy because all that they're doing is trying to get a video of it. They're trying to sell this video, and you know, for good reason, you could say it's ethical because the point Aidan raised, they're going to take that money, put it back into the ranch, and presumably use it to better their lives and that of their business and the horses ultimately. So you could make an argument there as to whether that's ethical. Um, but I think it definitely is just another of example of that exploitation of the non-human sort of species or entity, so to speak. So I think there's definitely a lot of that in this movie, and it's definitely a major theme of that anthropocentrism that exists here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up on the Gordy thing and like how it relates, given that you did take Animals in Society,
Yeah,
but fail.
yeah,
But yeah, I think yeah, I don't know if the whole jean jacket bit near the end. I don't know if that was if you could fully consider that ethical. I mean, they definitely do take steps to make it more ethical than Jupe did, but really, when it comes down to it, like what is the difference between them and Jupe? Jupe feeds the horses, admittedly worse, but they're still taking the animal that's that could and does cause a lot of carnage and a couple deaths, and ultimately they have to put it down, whether or not they know they're doing it, but they have to put it down to stop it, and they're still trying to get a picture all the way towards like the very end of the movie.
yeah.
They're still trying to get um, to have their cake and eat it too, or whatever.
Yeah.
I
What
don't.
but I do think that like again like this was just thrust on them and it's their home. You know what I mean? Like and I what I liked about that is the way the movie navigated it, whereas like I think it was trying to make that point that often people are driven to exploitation, particularly like I
Mm,
think that um for creative people, people that are trying to create art. Like I think you are because that culture exists and because of that paired with dire economic circumstances, like you're kind of driven to do that. I think the big difference between Jupe and the Hayworths is the respect that we were talking about. I think the Hayworths absolutely have more respect for their animals. And I think that again, like humans are animals and this thing is attacking them. And so I think that like there is a certain degree of they are defending themselves and they are also um, trying to make some money while they do it. Like, but I think you can make a decent argument that like Jupe is a somewhat sympathetic character too, because like what happened to him was pretty awful, and clearly things didn't pan out exactly how he wanted them to in his acting career, if he is where he is.
yeah.
And he's kind of in this position. You know what I mean? And like, I don't think the movie. I'm not saying that's necessarily right, but I'm saying that like I think the point the movie is making is that our culture drives people into making unethical or ethically gray decisions just to eat.
Yeah. I agree that there is that component of it where Em and OJ are trying to save their ranch. I did see this a month ago, so I'm starting to forget the movie, but um I don't know if that was driven home enough for me, or at least at this point, a month later, like I don't remember it. Um, I think there was a lot of like from the start, M wants to be famous for just whatever the like greed, but for fame, right? Like just fame hungry. It
Clout
seems
chasing.
like, yeah, cloud chasing, clout or cloud chasing. I mean,
Oh,
given this movie, there's some clouds. Um, Big movie for clouds and for cloud watchers. Am I right, fellas? But I don't know. So there's yeah. At the beginning, she's definitely a clout chaser. And the movie's trying to make a point against it. I think by the end, maybe she's turned around and has learned that lesson. So yeah, I could see that that they're being driven to exploit the animal for economic reasons. Yeah, I concede. I see your point. Um, I liked what you said though about how the culture and just like filmmaking in general or making art, like you have to exploit trauma, and oftentimes it's your own, right? Like
yeah.
um, just thinking about like screenwriting, like I'm watching YouTube videos about like how to's and all sorts of stuff, and something that keeps coming up is like you have to put yourself into the script, right?
Yeah.
And more often than not it's like what are those shitty moments you had, right, and put that part into the script. I mean, you can also put your happy moments into, but like you're selling part of your soul is in the script, and the same with directing or just like making any art really. um, there's on some level you're doing that, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
it's getting
I
deep
think
here on the podcast.
I just I have a quick point about writing in general on that is that I've also like I've wanted to be a writer for a long, long time. I've tried writing. And when I was a kid, I not a kid, like a teenager, the short stories I would write, like they often started from this place of like, okay, what's this thing that is like really bothersome and like a deeply rooted frustration or problem that I have, and I'm gonna try to build a story out of it. But the more I've grown as a writer, the more I've realized, well, no matter what you do, you put yourself into your work. So,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, everything when I've ever sat down and be like, okay, I'm gonna talk about fucking I'm gonna talk about class struggle. Like if I ever sat down and I was like, I'm gonna talk about this, like it's gonna turn out like shit. It's like
Yeah,
it has to be a more ground up
it's gonna be
approach to me.
preachy is
Yeah,
probably what's gonna happen if you start with a theme. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that this movie is interesting in that like because it's starting from just capturing this big idea instead of trying to build stuff up in a more grassroots authentic way. I think I'm reaching a bit there, but like I just in terms of my own philosophy of writing, I can't help but put it into what I saw.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, even people like Taika Waititi have to put themselves in the Thor movie, maybe
Yeah.
even two times. You just really got to put yourself in your own movies. No, but what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
Um, let's. I'm gonna skip ahead to a point that we had later on, but I feel like fits kind of into this idea.
Sure.
Yeah, that TMZ guy.
Sure.
And we did kind of already bring him up, and he's definitely like an example of jupe and the worst of the exploitative news cycle. And oh god, the news cycle.
Yeah.
um Actually, sorry, the news motorcycle in this case.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm terrible, guys. um One thing that I do want to talk about that I think might have some meaning, his helmet is one another one of those examples of something like visually so interesting,
Yeah.
that elevates this movie. Peele, like that helmet could have been anything.
Yeah.
And instead of it being just a generic helmet, it's fully reflective surface, which is fantastic. It plays into the jean jacket thing with seeing a reflection, and also I think there's an element of like reflecting that character is like a reflection of us as
Yeah.
like the consumer. So like I think and I mean reflections comes up a couple of times in the movies. I think that's an idea of like the audience also has to look at themselves as consumers and what is ethical consumption as well as ethical creation
Yeah.
and exploitation.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I felt the same way about the mirror helmet, and I thought it was also interesting. Like, because I mean, one of the themes I think we've been talking about is kind of like this animals versus humans thing. And then you have the mirror with the horse in the beginning. The horse sees a reflection and he gets scared by his own reflection. And I think like I don't know if the movie really touches on this at all, if it really explores this, but the thought I had thinking about it after the movie was that when you compare that to the scene with the TMZ guy, whereas like humans are at our core animals too, and if we as the consumer could see ourselves, we'd be scared. Like and
Mm,
like I had this, I
nice.
don't know exactly how to weave that into the rest of
Damn,
the
bro.
movie, but I just like, yeah, like I just fuck, dude,
Were
like,
you how high were you when you came up with that one?
dude,
Yeah.
don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Speaking of this whole eye thing, let's talk about the jean jacket's eye, also its mouth,
Mhm.
also its butthole. Um, isn't it kind of weird that like the alien follows the same rules as animals on Earth do? This has been bugging me for a while.
Sure,
Like, you know, animals on Earth follow certain rules. You know, don't look them in the eye sometimes, and it's not all animals. And I don't know. There's other rules like I think you're not supposed to smile at chimps or something,
right,
like
because
because
it's
that's
baring your
an
teeth.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
baring your teeth. Exactly, it's an aggressive thing instead of a happy thing. So you know, all animals have different rules. Don't like sudden movement or like red flags for bulls,
yeah,
whatever. Um, anyways, I think it's kind of weird that like, and I guess convenient for the Haywers that it's so similar to training a horse, or you know that they know how to train.
sure,
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess otherwise you'd have like this unsolvable problem where you know this is an alien that follows by rules that nobody knows, and then
yeah,
like what are you gonna do? Um, I don't know. I found it like a little bit easy in a sense.
sure. Yeah, I can see that.
Uh, um, but I don't know. The more I thought of it, um, because sometimes I lie awake at night thinking about Jean Jacket's butthole slash eye. Um, um, but I think there's actually like some amount of meaning to it, and I think Aiden, you might have mentioned it before, but like the whole idea is if you look at the eye, you get sucked up, and I think that has to do with this idea of you know wanting to be seen, this like mirror reflection. Like we keep swirling around this topic, but um, M's whole thing is that she wants to be seen, and I think this was something I came across when I was doing research, but someone described OJ as wanting to be seen, and this movie was a long time ago, so I don't really recall. But like, I I definitely remember from the first scene when they're on the film set, he's very like introverted, and he feels like he isn't being heard.
Hmm.
So in a different sense, he wants to be seen. He wants to be seen, but he isn't loud about it. And M is loud and still feels unseen. So it's interesting that the the way that you die is like looking into this eye that's like looking at you, right? Um, and it's kind of like this, like I called it like this camera that like swallows you up. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't know. It kind of plays into these ideas, and I think it's also interesting. I think the very first thing we see in the movie after there's a proverb, and then the first thing we see is I want to say Jean Jacket's POV, like through like there's this weird. I couldn't tell what it was at the time, but later you realize that it's maybe Jean Jacket's POV, where it's like this square and like lights are leading up to the square.
oh
So
yeah,
like I think that's like its intestine or whatever,
Yeah.
and is looking at the man on the horse thing. So it's kind of like camera like and viewer like.
Yeah.
I don't know. So like, there's this idea of like, you know, if you look into like this thing looking you, I don't know. It's really rough in my head, but like it makes sense to me in my mind.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't
I
know.
think I know what you're saying. I also thought that one of the things, and this is going to be a half baked idea, so strap up for this. Uh, but
I'm
I,
strapped.
yeah, like I thought that it was kind of touching on like almost the reciprocal nature of consumption. Like in a way, Jean Jacket and the Hayworths are consuming each other. Like
Yeah.
if you think of Jean Jacket as like the viewer or the audience, it's because it's called that. It's called like the Watcher or something
Okay.
by Jupe. Um, like it is kind of it's doing the same thing. Like it is in a literal sense exploiting these things it's eating for its own gain. Now it's more of like a biological need. It's eating food that it needs to survive. But I think like and then at the same time you have the Hayworths that are trying to capture it for their own gain. And I think that there is something interesting, like you were saying, about how, um, like, if you want to be consumed, then you will, and it will consume you, like, entirely. Like, if that makes sense, like, I don't know. It's kind of tying into what you were saying, whereas if you think about it as, if you think about Jean Jacket's eye slash butthole as this thing that is watching and capturing you and looking to consume you, then it's like we have this urge to be consumed almost like we can't look away and we have to be
Yeah.
noticed like you were saying, um and that very well can be the death of you if you don't keep it in check. Like I felt something along those lines.
Yeah. Like there's something about like, if you're gonna stare down the barrel, which is like a technical film term as well, like just
Mhm.
looking straight into the camera, like you can't back away from it. I mean,
Yeah.
no, you do have to back away. The metaphor gets kind of muddy when you watch the movie, but like you have to stand your ground, I guess, is what Otis Jr. does in the end, right? Um, I don't know how that's different from like what the other characters do. I guess some try to run, so like if you run, that's not good.
Yeah.
But I think there's something there about like this idea of the alien being that watcher, the viewer, and it's watching these people who are trying to create content in different ways. So like it's a show, it's a something else, and um, you have to like be ready for that, or like again, half baked ideas here, but um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that one of the points that we have, I like, and we don't have to get to this right now, but like one of my points, my main criticism was like messy writing, and this kind of plays into this scene a little bit for me, where I didn't understand why they couldn't just straight up look down and slowly walk away. Like I really just didn't understand why they couldn't do that, and like
and then they
why
do though,
and
right?
then they
Like
do, and it's like not a problem when they do. And I was like, okay, like surely you've abandoned ship on getting the picture at this point, because it seems like they have once everything goes wrong. And it's like
yeah,
they keep like starting to look down and walk away, and it's like, why don't you all just do that? Like I didn't really like that was my main problem with that last scene where it was like I felt like I couldn't feel the stakes because I didn't quite get what was at stake and I didn't quite
yeah,
get what would go wrong if they did certain things. Like for example, when the TMZ guy like drives in, I was like, "Okay, but why is this a problem? Like OJ has to go out there anyway." Like I was kind of like, I don't know, like he's like
it's
I get that he's
it's
like annoying, but like
I think that the TMZ guy was an issue for a couple reasons. One, he's just like someone who doesn't know what the plan is and is just going to mess things up
yeah,
anyway, so that they can't execute their plan.
yeah,
Two is the reflective helmet, so no matter what, it's going to be looking at Jean Jacket, and he doesn't know how to respect the animal, so he's going to try
Okay.
to go away from it, and it's just going to keep attacking him because it'll see itself. Three, he's got an electric motorcycle, which, as we see, fucks him up when Jean Jacket
Right.
comes around. Um, yeah, so yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's a question: what would happen if? Okay, so say we know that obviously they can't look at this thing, or else it's going to kill them. What happens if four of them stand in a big square and they all look at it?
Yeah.
I was
Which
actually
one does it
thinking
go
about
for?
this.
Does it just land
Yeah.
in the center and then just
Yeah.
start sucking, or does it go pick off each of them?
Yeah.
And how would it decide which one to go first?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh man. We gotta be careful with our language. This is getting really dirty.
Dude, Alex, it's just an alien that likes to suck you. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
we
understand.
can't. I mean, it's
Okay,
not
so
our fault that
so
it's
Sasha, let me ask you the question back to you. So if there's four people standing in a circle
Yeah.
and the alien is in the middle of the circle, which one does it suck first?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Well, no. The question is how would it decide
man.
number one, and what would happen
Yeah.
really?
Man, that's funny.
Because
No,
yeah, we know we can't look up at it, but I mean, it's well, we know. Okay, obviously, so by virtue of it only attacking when they're looking at it, maybe it's been you have to imagine that it also knows when you're looking, right? So it should be able to see everybody. So maybe in that time that it's been observing, it's grown to like one of them more than the others.
To like actually answer your question, like I agree. I think there's an issue there because thinking back to Jupe when he gets sucked, um, when Jupe gets sucked,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't move. Like he
Yeah.
stands his ground.
Yeah.
So why does he die? Like so, I feel like I don't understand what the rules are here exactly.
Yeah, and that was my problem. That was my biggest problem with the end, where I got to a point where I know one of you guys said your complaints were that the characters like weren't developed. I thought that Jean Jacket like wasn't developed enough. Where I was like, I
Yeah.
don't really get like
Mm.
I don't understand what exactly a Jean Jacket's after, because sometimes it's like, oh, this is just an animal that wants to eat, and then other
But
times it
is it an animal that wants to eat? Because there's an interpretation. Is it okay? Is Jean Jacket ever just roaming looking for food? Because from what I recall, it's only attacking. It's not eating.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
finding things that are showing that it thinks is aggressive behavior. Things that are looking back at it, and it doesn't like that, and it consumes them as a way to get rid of that threat.
Yeah, I think because something has to have obviously provoked it, right? Like they're like this family ranch has been there for years. Somebody's got to have noticed it if it was just randomly going around looking for
Well,
food.
I don't think it's been here for years. I think it showed up around the time when Otis Senior dies.
Yeah, I guess so. But I feel like they definitely would have. There's been enough time that they would have noticed something if it was going to just be lurking around constantly for food. Right?
Yeah,
something
yeah,
definitely set it off. That's it's being more vicious at this time.
Well, I think, and that was Jupe. Like that was what I gathered
Yeah.
from it. That like Jupe was fucking with it, and like, and I think that. Oh, I guess I'm now thinking that maybe it came to think of like this area as a constant food source.
Oh,
Jupe was
don't
always
feed the
feeding it.
animals. Don't feed the
Yeah, that's
animals.
true.
Don't feed the geese or whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
Another great point, Jordan Peele. Don't feed the animal. Yeah. Let's you mentioned one of my complaints, so let's go there. We're hopping around our discussion points, so anyone trying to follow along on our side is probably getting lost. But yeah, I felt that the original OG Jean Jacket, being the horse, not the the alien, and just kind of like M and OJ's backstory. I felt I felt leaving the theater. I was wanting more from that.
Mm.
It seemed to be like this whole big thing where there was some beef between them, right? There was some dissonance, like they hadn't spoken in a while, and so there seemed to be like something there, right? There's some unresolved issue going on, and I kept trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And they allude to it. There's something about Jean Jacket. Okay, what is that? And then all we get is the briefest of flashback sequences where we only get like a really small view. Like I think it's we see it through the window, the upstairs window, right? So we
Yeah.
see um, the kid outside, and then the reverse shot of that of the person in the window, M and OJ. And I was just kind of like, that's it. We're not gonna see what that whole issue was, and it's a they go for the explain it rather than show it. Show don't tell is usually the way to go, but instead M is explaining what happened, and I felt like the whole backstory. Um, I think the backstory is that she was promised a horse. She was gonna get to train one, and like, so not just like I want a pony kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
she wanted to be involved in the family business,
Yeah.
and um, their father never let that happen. Like he just always uh, helped Otis Jr. figure out the business, and was kind of pushed away. And that's really interesting and is barely touched upon.
See, I liked it though because that wasn't what was important to me. What was important was that Otis saw her and that she
Yeah,
wanted to be
I heard
seen
about
and noticed, right?
yeah.
Like, and so the way I took it is that like you said, she wanted to train this horse, got taken away from her, and she was upset about that. And the way I see it is that the rift that existed between OJ and M was that um OJ might have been under the impression, like this entire time, that M was mad at OJ for what had happened, for the fact that like the horse that was promised to M, OJ took with his dad to this show instead. But the reality and the impact of that scene, because I see that scene as them making up, like right, and like patching over this rift, is that she was never upset at him at all, and in fact, it was a positive memory of him for her, because in this moment where she felt probably pretty alone because it was this thing she wanted and like her dad doesn't seem to care, she was seen by her brother, and her I think she probably recognized that her brother didn't have much power over it either. I think that her main problem was just that because she was pushed away, she isn't as attached to the ranch anymore as OJ, and that's why the problem persisted into adulthood. But the core of it is actually it's a bonding moment.
I think in the end she gets what she wants too, right? She's given this alien the name of Jean Jacket to replace that thing that she didn't have, and then in the end she's the one who, with the help of OJ sort of luring it away, um, she's the one who's able to escape and then ultimately take the pictures of it as it's dying, as I can't remember what exactly it eats at the end that causes it to die. Was it? Oh, it was the inflatable, right?
It's the balloon,
Yeah,
yeah.
the balloon guy. Yeah. So she ultimately causes it to feed on that, then takes the picture. So in a way, she's kind of like tamed it to its death, basically, and so that gives her that satisfaction that she was able to um, train or tame that jean jacket in the end that she lost out on.
But does
Yeah.
she train it?
I think in
Because
her mind she
it
does.
seems a lot more like Otis is doing the thing.
Yeah, but she's the
Like,
one that ultimately lures it into the
I
position she needs it
suppose.
into. And then I also liked how and then Otis is there for her after.
Yeah.
Like cuz it's the revelation is almost like that they in fact care a lot for each other. They
Mm.
actually
Yeah,
deep
and they
down
work
have a very
together
strong connection, yeah.
to um, to kill this thing.
Yeah. And you earlier you mentioned the eyes on me gesture. You kind of gestured it, and I will remind you that there is no
Yes,
video for this,
right.
so I'm just gonna explain. He does the like points at his
Yeah.
eyes and points at her eyes, or maybe just at her. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember the gesture, but and then it's supposed to have significant meaning. It's in the flashback, and then it's in the present when they're trying to deal with Jean Jacket. Um, like I yeah, you have good points, and I think you're on the right. I think you're right. I just don't know if it was enough for me as a audience member. Like
Sure.
I just remember leaving the theater and just being like there was something missing for me.
I also just had like a bit of an idea that I think
Mhm.
that like there's also the movie might be suggesting that, you know, like everyone wants to be seen, and but it's like it's far more important and will bring you more fulfillment to be seen by those around you and those you love rather than like this
Oh yeah,
media machine.
that's
You know what
good.
I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I think you got it. That's it. We've cracked the movie. Okay,
Yeah.
podcast over.
Now what can I
Well
say?
done. Well done, Aidan. Okay, I have to rewatch this movie because I think I could be convinced that it's a great movie. Not I don't okay. I don't think I'll ever watch it and think it's like a 5-star movie.
I don't think I will either.
But yeah, like it's just for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think I could be convinced that there maybe isn't as many issues as I had the first time. Um, Actually, speaking of, you were talking about the balloon, Sasha. It's just like an inflatable, right? Like, why is it filled with helium?
Well,
Weren't most
to
So it
keep it,
stays upright, right?
yeah, so that it doesn't just look like this limp, saggy thing.
Yeah, but if you just pump it full of air, then that's what an inflatable is. You've inflated it, so it's gonna retain its shape.
Well, it retains its
Why
shape,
is it?
but it might sink. Like a balloon sinks to the ground, right? So
It's tied down, so like it'll stay up. Because
I don't
if you
remember. Was it
apply
like tied
tension,
to like the top of something though?
I,
no, it's tied to the ground
yeah,
because she has to
Oh,
like move around
yeah.
to remove the stakes in the ground. So
Well,
like the stakes are gonna hold it upright because there's tension on all sides.
sure.
Physics, Sasha.
what is physics, Sasha? You're the one who started in physics. I'm a chemist.
We were both in physics.
Okay, well, let me think about this for more than a quarter of a second. So I feel like, okay,
It's just
if
an
you just,
inflatable. It shouldn't float.
well, it
Okay,
You
should.
but
think
did you
of
consider that the plot requires it to? You think
darn
about
it! You
that.
got me.
I mean, the
You
thing is,
got me,
like, it's filled with helium so that it can float, right? If you just fill a normal balloon, it's gonna. If you blow up a
guys.
balloon, it's gonna fall to the
It's
ground,
so
right?
it's so easy to write something that works better. You just have a hot air balloon that's part
Sure.
of the
Okay,
experience
wait,
at
hold on.
Jupiter's
But then it
Ranch.
doesn't have eyes.
Hold
Yeah,
on, and on the thing is Jupe's face.
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Okay.
The only issue, I guess, okay, the only issue is the alien wouldn't explode, but it could easily catch
Okay,
fire.
wait, hold on. Did when the alien died,
Peel, call me.
did its when it died, did the noises
Yeah,
were the noises that it was making higher pitched because they should have been if it was filled with helium?
it might have been.
I think it
It
probably
might have been.
it's
That's a
That's
good
possible. I
funny.
point.
don't remember, but
I
I
didn't
feel
think
like
about that.
if I
Was
rewatch
it
it,
even talking though?
well, it was making some noise, right? And I think
Uh,
that noise should be because there's lots of helium around. Those sounds should be
no,
higher
wouldn't
pitched
it be
anyway.
so funny if we still heard the screams of the people,
Yeah,
but
and it
then
was
they
like,
sounded like
"Ah!"
chipmunks?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Exactly. Oh man, that would have been some dark humor. Um, oh god. Okay, where should we go from here? Um, let's take it back. There's okay, so we kind of touched upon this idea of animals versus humans,
Mhm.
or the non-humans versus humans at least. There's also seems to be some sort of a at least a motif about analog versus tech, and that's just due to the nature of the alien, um, like zapping electricity away and like
Mhm.
almost like an EMP removing, which is something that in like sci-fi it's been a thing for a while. So it's kind of like taking that idea and applying it so that in this specific context, people can't record it as easily, which is
Yeah.
the whole it's a barrier that they have to cross. But I think Peel uses it and like I almost feel like he's making a point about it, but I'm not entirely sure. What do you guys think about that?
I guess the
Is
only thing I had in my head when we have the DOP recording it on this old film camera was one of the things you always hear about filmmaking is that it's like, oh, it's all about control. Like it's all about controlling like every single element and making the frame exactly what you want it to be. But if you actually look at the history of film, like especially when people were like filming outside on the first film cameras when they finally developed cameras that could do that well, like it wasn't really that like so much was out of the control. And I think that like one of my problems with a lot of movies now is that they're too polished and they don't have any texture to them because there's too much control.
you're talking
And
about like you're referring to film grain, right? That kind
that
of
and just like straight up like when you like a movie now, like when it's filming outside, we'll have like entire chunks that are just still blue screened in, right? Like or and there's still a lot that
I mean, if you're Thor: Love and Thunder, yeah, there
but
could be
like
blue screen.
even movies where it's like instead of like that wasn't an option before. And so like if they
Yeah.
can't find a location and they can't make the location work, like they're just going to blue screen it. But like I think I saw it as like taking it to more of like a pure version of the art form, like what it at the very beginning was, which is just trying to capture reality. But I don't know.
Actually, I'm so there's something. Oh man, I wish I knew more about cameras. So I tried to look it up. With this whole idea of like the analog versus tech, I was wondering what is Nope shot on, but I know
I don't
nothing
know.
about cameras, so I looked it up and I don't know what that means.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, there's I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, is there like a point that Peele's trying to make about that the analog is better and that like you said, digital just kind of like takes away the imperfections that kind of make it unique or like I don't know or like maybe that like the analog is like the old reliable right like the horse isn't going to break down with the alien and
Well, I think he's
the
trying to
the
get the
crank
characters to
camera
like be more primitive. I feel like, um, and kind of just
what
well, because they have to go back
sorry
to like they have to rely only on this film camera, right? They can't. They have to
yeah
abandon. They went through the whole process of buying these security cameras and then Angel coming in and setting them up, and then him sort of joining forces with them. So they go through all this, but then it turns out the only way for them to, um, like to actually get what they want is like old style with this film camera.
Mhm.
So it almost seems like it's like basically just the alien kind of taunting them in a way and saying like, no, you know what, you're not actually that great because here I am. I'm gonna render your tools useless. And like if they hadn't known about this guy who had made this camera, how would they have done it? Like how would they have got the video of this thing? They never would have, or it would have been a lot harder to at least. So I feel like it's kind of that to me is just like another example of just the alien taunting them, um, and just giving
Yeah.
them something else to have to overcome in order to get what they want from it, and just make it harder for them to expose this thing.
But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily saying analog superior either because I think it ties into the whole idea like if the person behind it has like the same I guess exploitative intentions then it
true
doesn't
yeah
really matter because like the again like the DOP winds up kind of being the same anyway. And I looked it up. Nope is shot on like big IMAX cameras. I would assume to like make it
i'm
a big
pretty sure I'm
spectacle.
pretty sure it was digital yeah there's
Yeah,
no way
yeah. But yeah, I think it's trying maybe leading you in that direction, and then the twist of the DOP being too like overly obsessed. I think is supposed to be a bit of a twist on that
yeah
expectation.
interesting let's yeah um Actually, sorry, one more thing. We'll get to the DP now that you mention it, but Sasha, you're saying about the primitive, how the alien makes you use like more primitive weaponry. And you know what movie that reminds me of? Predator from 1987. We're not ready for that segue. Um, the DP, Holst, I think is his name. It's kind of weird, this character. He in his spare time, fiddles with his film of like dangerous animals attacking each other or something.
Yeah,
like there's like snakes attacking tigers and I don't know, like random stuff like that. So it's like, oh, he's perfect for the job. Andy, because we met him on the film set where he wasn't doing that. Right? Like his day job and his hobby are very different, which I mean, all the power to him, but it's real convenient that the one DP that they met is like 100% into that shit, right? What a quinky dink.
yeah,
Sometimes movies just be like that, but I thought
yeah.
that was interesting.
So there's a certain amount I just forgive where I'm like, okay, yeah, like they need a guy who could do it. This is a fairly natural way for them to meet him. And so I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, for me personally, I feel like the character was just like kind of just thrown in there randomly. It felt very out of place because he's like just kind of this old guy, and he's just from a totally different generation. And sure, he comes in and saves the day with his camera, but honestly, for me, like he didn't do anything more than that. I feel like, I mean,
I
maybe
don't
that's
even
just
know
me
why did.
nitpicking. Like, because
Yeah,
like the whole thing, I was just confused, like because he's like sort of sitting in like this, like I don't even remember like where he was kind of, but there's like all these like all that stuff on like his TV or whatever. It felt very out of place. I think.
he was in like his home
Yeah, I guess
editing
so.
suite or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like it's a little bit too like wrapped in a bow, nice. Like everything just works out
Yeah.
perfectly. I think there's an opportunity. Like the guy could have just been some guy they found on the internet who was like a DP who really liked that sort of stuff. I don't know that he needed to be the guy from the first movie, or if he's the guy from the first movie, did he have to also have this insane hobby that completely meshes with what they do, what they're trying to get done?
I
Like,
didn't
couldn't
think
he
it
have
was
just
that
been like,
crazy though. I thought it was
I don't
more
know,
just like because he has the line where it's like I do one for you and then I do one for me. He says that, and
who
it's like
said that?
yeah,
I don't remember
he
any of
says
that.
that, and it's like the idea that like he does these things just he does these like commercial shoots to fund like passion projects and things he really cares about.
Oh yeah. He's sorry. He said that to like the
Yeah,
business side, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant to M and OJ, and I was like, what?
No,
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
and yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was that strange. I think that's a common thing, right? That you have like artists who will do stuff they don't want to do to fund what they actually want to do. And then I also don't think it's that crazy that a DOP is obsessed with like getting the perfect shot of like this naturally occurring thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't feel stretched thin to me.
Well, to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty hilarious that the DP dies trying to get that perfect shot. Like he
Yeah.
will not. I don't know.
And he almost seems to like know he's gonna die doing it. He doesn't care.
Right? That's what I
Yeah.
thought. And I was like, dude, is it that worth it?
Yeah.
It's for the art. It's for the art form, I guess. Um, okay, let's get to one of my most anticipated points. There's a lot of biblical references in this movie. It opens on a proverb that I was able to find. I will read it. It said, "I will cast abominable filth upon you, comma, make you vile and make you a spectacle." So there's that, and there's this idea of, and I will admit some of this came from my research, but
Hmm.
there's kind of like this motif of like this alien is making people rise into heaven, I guess.
Mm.
Um, Something that I think I picked up on immediately was that the idea that the final, what I call the final form of the alien, almost like it's a Pokemon that's evolved, is like this biblically accurate angel.
Yeah.
Um, Even like in the theater, I'm sure I whispered to Sasha like that's what that is. Um, I think it's on purpose for that. I've heard other people say it's like a jellyfish, or I also thought it looked kind of like a kite,
Yeah.
which was interesting. um, but yeah, I think there's something to be said about like there's some sort of biblical analogy going on here.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I don't know very much about the Bible, admittedly.
Yeah,
So
neither
Neither
do
do
I.
I.
there is not much analysis I can give. I think the quote is interesting because I like the idea. I said that like these things in nature like aren't good or bad until like we make them vile. Like I kind of like that idea of the quote. Like we turn them into a spectacle before we intervene. They're just things that exist. And so that's how I took the quote. But in terms of yeah, I can't really be saying shit about the biblical references because I don't. I really would just be talking out of my ass.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
if
too.
not you, then none of us are going to be
No,
good because I
definitely
know
not.
Sasha and I definitely not.
Yeah, the one thing I
Um,
will say though about like going back to the proverb though is like it's definitely like putting this alien in or this UFO in a bad light. Now this from now I'm considering it from the UFO's perspective. Like they're just making it feel really sad, and it's just like, oh, they want to like kill me, and like that's not nice. And so they're basically like making it feel they're turning it into the antagonist, which arguably from our perspective it is. But if you consider the other perspective, right, that's that's where it is. Now you could also say like in that proverb, if it's casting filth, maybe that's like the excrement that is throwing down back to earth. So maybe that's what it's referring to.
That proverb, I think what you like, I think that proverb could be read from two different
Yeah.
viewpoints. So you're talking about the jean jacket, like it's casting abominable filth, like the blood on the house, or like the metal bits, right? Um, and it makes them a spectacle. But I think it also applies to like the filmmaker. Like it applies to Peele. It applies to the people who are trying to capture Jean Jacket on film or exploit Jean Jacket, because they're also, casting abominable filth like on the screen and make you vile, complicit,
Yeah.
and make you a spectacle for you to watch. So
Yeah.
I think it works on two layers, which are the
makes
best things. The best things work on many layers. Yeah. So I think the last kind of like talking point is, or like one of the last, sorry, um, black man on a horse. That's it's kind of the first thing we see. It's part of the first image.
Yeah.
Is that that first video, and I think that ties into the idea of exploitation, right? There's this jockey who was filmed, and he's the first guy on film, and we don't even really know his name, and
Yeah.
they claim ancestry with him, but no one. I don't think it's known. Who
Yeah,
he
I don't
was.
think in real life, I don't even think it's known who it is. I think it's a
Yeah.
good way to like. It was definitely captivating in the trailer, right? Because the trailer opens with that
Mhm.
explanation of it. I just don't think it was necessarily like it was tied in well insofar as like sure this movie is about making this film of this thing, and then it's centered around a black family owned horse ranch, but then that's it, right? It doesn't get much further than that, for me at least. So I think it's definitely interesting, and it was a good point in the trailer. It just didn't come across that well in the
Um,
movie itself, I feel like.
I liked it. I thought it tied in well.
I
The
think so
way I
too.
saw it in the context of exploitation, I saw it as like black people, is particularly in America, have always been exploited and then received nothing for it. Um, and so like I did like it was like I was saying earlier, where it's like the Hayworths didn't bring Jean Jacket to themselves, which is why I think, again, like I was saying, like they're more justified to fight back. But yeah, like they didn't bring it to themselves, but they're experiencing all of the detriment of it. You know what I mean? Like it's destroying the ranch. It's just killing their horses. Um, and like there is a certain degree I couldn't help but feel like no one would really care if they like made it public that this was happening to them. Like I don't know. I can tell you exactly what gave me that feeling, but
Yeah.
that's how I
Um,
felt.
yeah. No. What you said about history of like um, how historically black people have gotten like the short end of the stick. I think I think it applies well to if you specifically narrow that field to the horror genre. I think it applies particularly well because there's that common phrase that the black person dies first in horror films. And actually, Peele does do that in this movie as well. The first person who dies is Otis Sr.
Mhm.
And so I think with the old footage, I think it's, yeah, this person, this jockey was exploited, probably not paid for their work. Um, and so it ties into the idea of exploitation and probably how, now I guess I wouldn't know much about this, but like, you know, trauma and how that applies to black people as well is exploited, um, I guess, on film as well. Um, but yeah, and also, sorry, more about how Otis Senior dies. He's also on a horse when he dies. Whoa,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty big stuff. Um, and then I think it's great that the final image is a black man on a horse and he's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. I have heard people think that he's actually dead and it's a hallucination.
Oh really?
Apparently, there are
Oh well,
hallucinations in the movie, which I didn't remember at all. But
I I
I don't
find that
remember there
hard to
being
believe.
hallucinations either.
I think there's one scene that Otis Senior appears in when he's dead. Like he's like a vision for Otis Junior.
Oh,
Like he sees Pop. Um,
I don't remember.
but yeah, that
I
would
feel like
be.
that's a
But then it's
stretch,
M
honestly.
at the end who would be hallucinating. So I don't know. I think that's. I think that's like a one of those things where
I
it's
think
like,
that's a Reddit
well,
moment.
was it real or like trying
Yeah.
to pull the rug out from under you for the ending. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's great that the final image, we start with black man on a horse, first death, black man on a horse, and it's something that's like kind of taints the rest of the movie in that like it kind of like drives things forward. And then final image, black man on a horse, and he's alive, he's made it, right? So I think that's great. um the ending, did you ever get to your bit about the messy writing? Was that just Jean
Yeah,
Jacket?
yeah, it was mostly Jean Jacket. It was I didn't quite get what their plan was, like exactly why. And so for me, the problem was I didn't get how and why it could go wrong and did go wrong. So when it did go wrong, I was just like, okay, but how did you plan against this? Like I
Hmm.
didn't quite understand like it just didn't quite line up for me at the end there.
Okay.
It was mostly um and then I thought that it revealed like some cracks that I saw that I think were sort of there the whole time, which was like kind of the way it explained it. Like there were a few times where I felt like it gave us information after we should have gotten it, and I think that that end scene was an example of that to me, where it was like we're kind of learning what could go wrong as it goes wrong, and I feel like that wasn't set up enough for me.
Yeah, what was there's something I was thinking about, like something that we just should have known earlier. Do you know specifically what that might have been?
I'm struggling to think about it now, but I remember thinking in the theater like, okay. And then like when it had, and then I kind of like forgave it. And then when I got to the end, I was like, it's kind of the same problem for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe it was something about M and OJ, like something about their relationship. I wish I had just known from the start.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. For me, the ending, there's something that bugs me is the fact that like at the end, everyone kind of gets what they wanted. I think I said this earlier, but like everyone gets their cake and eats it too. So they get the picture of the alien. I think the videos might be gone
Yeah.
because the alien does attack the tent kind of hideout. So maybe this is the only thing they get is the old timey camera
But weren't there all those other
portion.
journalists there too, like investigating the disappearance of the ranch? So is it possible that somebody else got it on tape from there? Like at least the death of this thing?
There weren't any journalists around. I mean, there were
Were
police at
they?
the end.
Or maybe I'm
Police show
confusing the
up
police and the
very
journalists.
quickly
Well, because I
right
remember
after
there was
somehow.
definitely journalists reporting on like the vanishing of all those people at the park, but were they actually there or not at the end? I don't remember. That might have just been the police then.
Uh, I don't think. I think the point was that M and OJ are the only ones who have
I
it.
guess so. I'm
But
not quite sure actually, so I could be
yeah,
wrong.
but like yeah, my it bugs me. It bugs me that it's such a happy ending. Which I mean, it's
I don't
not.
know.
It's not a
Is it?
terrible thing that it's. I think so because M and OJ are both still alive and have a picture of the alien. They've
Yeah,
lost.
but like think
They
about the
lost the
way they.
camera DP that they didn't know. They're gonna get their ranch back. It's all yay, everything, which I don't know. Maybe there's like a thematic reason why everything should be happy, but I don't
I
know. I just
felt
feel
like a
like
sense of dread at the end of it. Like neither
really,
of them. Like I guess like there's the classic like horror movie like they're just exhausted and they're happy it's over. But I don't know, like the way they're both reacting is like they didn't for me it's like they really didn't want to be in this situation. And now that they kind of got what they want, like although it gives them the financial boost they need, like it doesn't feel good. Like that's what it felt like for me. Like I think in specifically in Emerald's reaction, like I don't know that it didn't seem like an overly positive ending to me.
I I didn't read it that way. I feel like I didn't get a sense of dread at the end.
No, I didn't either.
Uh,
I thought it was. I agree with Alex. I think it was a happy ending for sure.
the
I
like the final, the second final. Sorry,
Yeah.
Sasha, you go.
No, I was just gonna say like it definitely like just the way that I think a lot of that comes from like it's just seeing OJ on that horse at the end, right?
Yeah,
Like triumphant and alive because you think for sure he's gonna die, right? Because there's that moment where that you brought up before where he makes the eye gesture, he points at him, where he points at M, and so you kind of think you're led to believe that like that's the last sort of interaction that they'll have as he sacrifices himself to lure Jean Jacket away from her to spare her life, but then it turns out he lives too. So presumably that kind of like solidifies their bond that was previously strained. So I think that definitely added to the optimism at the end of it.
I agree about the bond, that like it solidified their bond, and I liked that a lot. But like something in like don't you feel like in their expressions there was like something like this
because
isn't
she thought he was dead, and she was looking for him,
yeah
and you hold on that for a long time because you're like, wait, is he dead? Is he alive? So you think she's sad, and then
yeah
she starts to smile, and then we
Yeah.
cut to her POV, and you see Otis because he's alive.
yeah, but then you
I
see
don't.
him on the horse and he's like, yes, it's a triumphant moment, but he isn't like, haha, I'm on this
But I think
horse.
that's just
Oh
his
no,
character,
it's
though.
like that. It's triumphant. He doesn't say that, but that's what it
Yeah.
feels
Because
But
like.
look
I
at no,
think
but his face isn't that. Like
He's
that's not
like he's like a ways away. I couldn't see
yeah,
his
I think
face.
he's just kind of a deadpan character in general, right? Like in the trailer,
Yeah.
there's that like the thing I remember in the trailer is where M is explaining, the 2-second clip of Black Man on a Horse, and OJ is just standing there looking down, and he's like, "Great, right?
yeah,
He
There's
did
nothing
like
great
but
in this."
don't you
he
think that if it was this big triumphant moment for him as a character, if he felt it to be a big triumphant moment, he'd like he'd crack a joke or something, and it would be a deadpan joke. It would be he'd say it deadpan.
that would
Maybe,
kill the
but
final
it
shot.
wouldn't
No,
surprise me
but
if he didn't, though. That's the thing. Just with his
no,
character, I feel
I
like.
think you guys are wrong. I think that there's something about the last little bit there that is not as jubilant as you're making it out to be.
I'm sorry that he didn't like wave his cowboy hat in
I'm
the
not
air
saying
and
yes.
like
No, I
fire
don't
his
think he would do
guns
that.
and
But like he'd like crack a
yeehaw.
smile or something, or like reference something earlier. I don't know. But like,
Okay. Remember, filmmakers, future filmmakers. If your character is happy at the end, they have to crack a smile.
it's not what I'm
That's
saying. That's not what I'm saying.
them's the rules.
I'm saying that the characters are not like happy about the situation in the end. I don't think they are.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't think that they're
Again,
happy about what they've gone through. I don't think they're satisfied that they had to go through that.
okay. I'm sure that yeah, like maybe they're not happy they had to do all that, but they set up the plan so that they would do it. Like they
But
felt like they
everything was
had.
forced upon them.
But was it? They didn't have to go. They could have flown to Hawaii and they would have been okay.
They didn't have
I
the
mean,
money for that.
they probably
Where's their
couldn't
money?
afford to
Where's their
fly to
money for
Hawaii.
that?
But okay, they couldn't afford to fly to Hawaii, but they could have like left. I think there was always an option
But
for
that's
them to
it's
leave.
their ranch, it's their entire life. Like you shouldn't have to choose between that. It was something that was thrust on them.
I suppose.
Like
Okay,
you know what I
fine,
mean?
fine. I suppose the alien was terrorizing their ranch specifically, but I don't know. I watching the movie, I never felt like they were forced to do what they were doing. I felt like they this was a choice that they wanted to get that Oprah shot because they're still talking about the Oprah shot by the end.
Yeah.
If it was about like rescuing the ranch, like it would have been like let's go kill the alien, but they're still trying to get the Oprah shot, and I guess it's for the money reasons. But it never, for me, I always felt like there's that fame element of it too, not just we need to do this for the money. Like OJ, that makes sense, but I feel like I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. The ending at least I felt like was a happier ending. Um, but we don't need to. Well, I feel like we're just gonna argue about
Yeah.
it for hours. So, um, I think I've hit all of the points that are specifically about the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just cut on that. What did you guys think about this movie compared to Peele's other films?
Yeah, so my ranking, I didn't even have to think about this too much. For me it's a Get Out, Nope, Us in that order.
Yeah,
I
exact
think I
same for
agree.
mine too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was boring. Just kidding.
I like Us a lot, but to me, it's just not as good.
I
I
think the thing with me is I think I'm just anchoring to Get Out. I feel like I don't think anything will top that just because it was first. Um,
I
Get
think it's
Out
also
just
just the
has
tightest movie.
yeah,
yeah.
Get Out just has this amazing, captivating story to it, and it's such a unique premise, and there's so much mystery in it. It's like every second you're just wondering what's going to happen next. Um, Us, I feel like I just don't remember all that well. Like, you know, sure, there's lots of clones, and like, yeah, the twist at the end was like cool and all, but it just kind of it did feel really rushed. Nope was also it shared that mystery that Get Out had. I just don't think it was as compelling for me.
Yeah, I think what you said about what Get Out is tight. I think that's true. I think why it's better than this one is it's just tighter and it has a better idea of what it's about.
Yeah,
And also definitely the idea of, putting part of yourself into the movie definitely was there for Peele, I imagine. Um Nope, I think, has the iconic visuals that we've kind of touched upon, so it has that going for it. And then just I didn't really like Us when I was watching it. Like I never really got what it was about.
I never
Um,
got Us either.
like I've
Which to me isn't my problem was that I felt like it kind of spiraled like to a point where
yeah, yeah,
I was like,
it's like
oh,
messy.
I was like, what? I don't know. And then when you get to the end, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
sure, yeah,
Yeah, when they get to the Hands Across America thing, you're like,
Yeah,
this is what we're doing. This is what we're building up to. The beginning was pretty strong, and then just this, yeah,
yeah.
I didn't.
I
It
definitely
just
one thing
didn't
that
dig it.
will what stuck with me is just the visuals in the opening where Adelaide is going into that funhouse.
Yeah, right, right, right.
That was very very well done. I think that was like
oh
it was
yeah.
definitely really suspenseful.
I think
And
everything
Mhm.
he always directs well. I think
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, yeah. And then I just want to compare it to one other movie that isn't one of his. So, have either of you seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
I
no, but you
unfortunately
told
have
me to
not.
watch it right after,
Yeah,
and I
I
still haven't.
probably did. Go watch it. It's a phenomenal movie. Steven Spielberg came out 1977. So that would have been after Jaws, same year as Star Wars. That's one of my like a personal favorite movie. That's just like something I watched as a child.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like sentimental value there, but it's very similar to this movie. And I, I mean, you can't. It's hard to compete with Spielberg. So I feel like that one still. I think that one's better.
Mm.
So that's just like that's I guess kind of getting ahead of myself for recommendations. Like if you liked Nope, but we're kind of like wishing for more in a sense, like I think Close Encounters nails it. It's just like so it's aliens are around again, but they're never like a threat in that movie. It's not like aliens scary.
Mm.
It's aliens are here, and that it drives an obsession that you want to know, right? And I just find that so compelling.
Mm.
And they also have some very iconic visuals in that movie, so definitely recommend that. With that, that's it for me for Nope. Anyone else have anything they want to last minute thoughts?
No, I think I
I think we
exhausted.
pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so to paraphrase, Nope.
Yep.
Okay, great. Oh God, the sequel. Let's Predator versus movies this thing. Would Predator have improved this movie?
I'm gonna go with a nope. If I'm giving like a real
There you go.
answer, I'm gonna say no on that one. I don't know. Unlike Thor 4, I don't know how I'd fit Predator into this one. Thor 4, I'd be like, hell yeah, Predator, either hunting Gore or hunting Thor, one of the two, doesn't matter. But this one, I guess if the Predator was like also hunting Jean Jacket, that would be like a funny wrinkle. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. Uh,
Predator is employed by the paparazzi, and he's just
yeah.
trying to get a photo.
That would
Yeah,
certainly add more threat to the final sequence. That would raise the stakes a little bit.
True, true. Sasha?
I'm gonna say, at best, Predator would not change anything. Um,
Hmm.
Definitely not better. Um, like Aiden said, yeah, sure. If there was a Jean Jacket Predator scene, maybe like if they go head to head, but I just think Predator would take away too much from Jean Jacket and the existing problems, and it would be too overwhelming. So I'm gonna go with a nope for that one.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Who would win in a direct conflict? Predator versus Jean Jacket specifically. Who would win in that duel?
I think if Predator's done some research and reconnaissance, he's winning.
Does Predator get prep time?
Yeah.
Has Predator heard of the movie Don't Look Up?
I don't know that he needs to know the movie. I don't think.
It's no, Alex. It's
But
a
yeah,
joke because remember
I know it's a
you
bad
want to
joke. So
switch the movie titles.
yeah.
my answer is Predator with prep time.
Yeah, I think so.
Predator.
That sounds plausible.
Yeah, I feel like Predator would just fall into the same trap. He would also look up, and then he'd be fucked. So,
That's what
I
I'm
mean,
saying. If he knew ahead of time what to do, he'd be good.
Yeah.
I mean, we do know that Predator like lies in wait and kind of observes for a while and is invisible most of the time.
Yeah.
So like, not the craziest idea. I feel like Predator could stand a chance.
But doesn't
Yeah.
Jean Jacket lie in wait, waiting for somebody to look up? Would this just be a waiting for a Godot scenario where they're just both sitting? Jean Jacket's just sitting in the clouds, and Predator's just on the ground, just reading a book, and they're just sitting there waiting for them to kill each other, and then nothing happens for the entire movie.
That's great. Yeah. No, none of the other characters. It's just
Yeah.
the two aliens waiting for the other one to
Yeah.
show up. That's great. Okay, that's enough of Predator versus movies. Let's get into recommendations. Eeny, meeny, miny, Aiden, you start.
Sure. Yeah, I haven't been doing too much recently that I didn't talk about before a couple weeks ago. But I guess a movie that I briefly caught the end of because my family was watching it that I have seen before and I very much like is The Long Goodbye. I believe it came
Ooh,
out in the 70s. I think it's
yeah.
Altman
With
is the director.
mhm.
I think it's a really, really good neo noir slash neon noir. I don't understand or care about the difference. Those are two
I
different
think
things, though.
it's Neo. Neon
Sure,
is the more recent ones
like
with like
Drive
just a
and stuff.
neon. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Neon. Yeah.
But anyway, I think if you like noir, you like the kind of conventions of that, and you also want to see like a visual style that is very rarely like I don't know of movies that look like this, where it's just like, why are you zooming here? But I like it. It's like
Hmm.
constant, like it's constantly zooming in and out on something, but I really, really like it. And it has this. It's really good. It's a good movie.
I've seen that one. I think Elliot Gould was like as whatever his name is, Marlowe,
Yeah,
Philip, I think, right, something like that.
it's Marlowe. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that was a great character, and I think Elliot pulls it off. I felt like
yeah,
that one there was like quite a long stretch where I'm like, what? Like it wasn't what I was
yeah,
expecting.
yeah.
He doesn't really try to solve the crime. He just finds some people and talks to them.
Yeah, but I liked it.
So
I liked that it was this
yeah,
kind of like rambling, like, and he's just muttering to himself the whole time, like, oh
yeah.
yeah, like he just has this constant, like no one's really listening to him, but he's always talking about something. Yeah,
I think it's a fascinating movie. So
yeah,
I want to watch that one again. Um, Also, like throughout the movie, the long goodbye, like there's like
yeah,
the song version of it is playing in different genres. It was really weird.
yeah.
Um, anything else you've been seeing?
I guess like I mean before this is a little while back now, but I was watching the oh fuck what's his name, the Hong Kong director who made like the Loose trilogy of Wong Kar Wai.
Right. Yeah.
His movies. I haven't been able to see 2046 yet, which I think is the third one, but I
Yeah.
did see Days of Being Wild and In the Mood for Love, which I thought were both very good, interesting movies. Like I think that they were both really, yeah, I really like them both. They're kind of romances, but they both have a, a lot going on in them. So I don't know if I'd call them exactly romances, but yeah,
Cool. Is that's all for you for Rex?
that's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. How about you, Sasha?
So I actually haven't watched much. The only things like the
I
two
mean,
things.
To be fair, for you and I, it's been 4
It's
days
it's
since we
literally been
read
4 days.
the
So
last podcast. So.
yeah, and it's been a busy week, so not much. I mean, the only two things I've watched are okay, so on Tuesday we were watching Pitch Perfect 3, which I don't think I
Oh
can
boy,
recommend because wow.
probably not.
No, it was. I mean, it was fine. Like, it has like a 28 on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was better than that, but like not by much. I think it just felt like they were just trying to milk it out. Um, so there was that, and then also the show on Amazon Prime called The Lake that I stumbled across.
Ooh, what's that?
It's basically like, so it's this Canadian show. So it's like this
Oh yeah,
sitcom.
bud.
Yeah, it's a
Oh
sitcom
fuck.
about like all these families at like the lake over the summer and like
Oh yeah.
these feuds
Okay,
they're
that
having.
could be funny.
Yeah.
That's you've already hooked me.
Classic
If it's
Canadian scenario
I
there.
mean,
yeah,
it's basically discount Schitt's Creek. Heavy emphasis on discount. Um, the writing is just like really. It's just you can tell it's really pandering and really cringe.
Mm.
So it's not great. I mean,
It's
like
trying too hard to be a Canadian show.
I wouldn't even say it's trying to be a Canadian show, but it's just trying to be like it's trying to fit in too much all at once. If you watch it, you'll definitely see what I mean. But it's like it's fine, like it's good entertainment, but it's nothing to write home about. It's no Schitt's Creek. So like yeah, those are like the two things that I've been watching in the last 4 days, and that's it.
fair enough. I've watched even less. Assuming I keep trying to think like, is there anything else? And I don't think there is. The only thing I watched since the last recording of the last podcast was House of the Dragons
Oh, okay.
or House of the Dragon. I don't know, the new Game of Thrones spinoff. So have either of you seen it?
No, I have never seen
So
Game of Thrones either.
Yeah, never mind.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to do something unprecedented here in the podcast. I mean, we have two podcasts as precedent, so not a lot of precedent to go through. But, and I am going to give an anti-rec. I watched the House of the Dragon prequel with Peter, the other currently absent co-host, and if he were here, he would be singing its praise. But alas, he is not here, and I'm just going to take a big shit all over it. I hated it. I did not like it even a little bit, which is an opinion that I've not seen much of online. There was one person who I saw who's like a fairly well-known YouTuber or no, TikTok creator for like film stuff. And they had similar opinions, but it was not good. It was not. I didn't find any of the characters to be particularly compelling to like make me actually want to watch the show.
Sure.
There was just a lot of misogyny, and it's one of those things where like people keep trying to defend it, like, oh, but it's a medieval show. It's a fantasy show.
Yeah,
so.
it's not like it takes place in like 1400s England.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly. So that's one thing. Like there are also dragons in the show, right? Like, come on. And two, like, even if that's the case, I just feel like they're not trying to make any points.
Sure.
Like it's misogyny for misogyny's sake.
Is it not true? I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but can the same not be said about Game of Thrones?
I think so, but I also think that like what they've done is they've pulled all of the things that we remember about Game of Thrones and then just slapped it in an episode that has nothing good about it. So you just notice the violence and the sexual violence, right? And it's like, there's nothing of substance here, right?
Does it feel like they're just doing it because it's like, oh, it's a Game of Thrones show, we have to have like sexual assault stuff
and dragons, and that's exactly what it feels like watching the new show. I didn't like it, and it's not even like there's so many small things I also didn't like. So that's my anti-rec. I'm gonna keep watching it. We're probably gonna end up doing a podcast. Sometimes I just do these things. I've been watching Westworld as well. I guess that's the other thing I've been watching. That's another like something just Peter enjoys, so I'm watching it so that we can discuss it. And we'll probably ultimately do a podcast on both of those shows. But that's just another show that has soured. I liked season 1 and season 2 of Westworld, but the 4th season I don't like very much at all. But that's just me. So maybe check it out. But yeah, honestly, would not recommend that. Some pretty terrible stuff happens in the pilot of House of the Dragon. And my favorite moment was me going, oh, I know it's going to happen because I can see this a mile away. And as it's happening, I think Peter was literally like covering his mouth in shock. He was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they're doing that!" And I was like, "Dude, I literally said 5 minutes ago that's what's gonna happen." Um, anyway, so let's wrap this up. What are we doing next? I'm gonna be out of town for a bit, so we'll probably have to skip 1 week. Um, I don't know what we're gonna do when we come back. We might do Pinocchio. um, um,
Does it come out like this week?
no, it's early September, so I
Oh,
think
okay.
it'll fit nicely by the time we're back.
Sure.
Peter wants to do a Westworld episode, so we might do that. Westworld season 4. We also had Prey happen, so we might. I don't know if we'll ever get to it because some good stuff will ultimately come in September. But and then there's also Spider-Man is getting re-released in theater, and they're calling it the Super Awesome Cut or
Oh,
something
yeah.
along those lines, with like 11 more minutes of footage. So I almost am tempted to do that just so I can shit on that movie in podcast format. And maybe Aidan should tag along
Because
with
I
me
liked it, yeah.
because you liked it and we can have conflicting opinions, which is great. I love
Yeah.
when it makes for good discussion. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like what's on the horizon. Trying to think what else. Um, yeah, that's about it. And yeah, so let's. If you're a fan of the podcast, follow us on Instagram at Predator versus Movies Podcast. Also, you can check us out on Twitter at Predator V Movies. Unfortunately, the handles are different. Whoops. Sometimes that's how it goes. And if you have Letterboxd, follow me on Letterboxd _ Alex Gordon _ I want that clout. I didn't learn anything from this movie. Until next time, I'm Alex.
I'm Aidan.
And I'm Sasha.
And that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.